All right.
So we'll see if when people join. I guess I could kind of do what other people do. Is I think Hard Bastard does it. So we just have a screen where it just shows um, like the show hasn't started yet. Wait till people get in, type of thing.
Oh, okay.
All
Oh,
right,
hello.
Ellis, very quick. Wow, you got the double whammy going today, Ellis. You got the call into Tim Black show, and now you're on After Hours.
What can I say? I'm a legend. Actually, this is the first time I've called in through a hotel, although I don't know if that says very much when I'm still in the same town. Don't believe me?
Oh wow, what is that?
Yep. This is my hometown,
What hometown is it?
Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Very beautiful. It's a very beautiful town. Good college football team. Well, we still get our asses creamed by pretty much everybody else. So, Georgia Tech forever eludes us. Anyway, how's everyone doing this evening?
Okay, so why are you in a hotel in your hometown? If you don't mind me asking.
So, oh no. So I'm currently working for the Hilton Company at the home to in my hometown. So I'm using it as a way for me to make some money while I'm off from school.
Oh,
So the benefit is that I've within the first month I have to do stay in at my hotel for one night, and I'm supposed to give feedback on how the hotel room was. Were the doors clean? Was the room clean? Were the curtains set up the right way? Is the bathroom in proper order? And stuff like that. But
sounds like a good gig.
Hi, Ariel.
yeah, I figured since I just finished my training this week, might as well do it. Might as well do the analysis while everything's still fresh on my mind.
This is a test. Testing.
So I saw you guys went like almost 3 hours, was it again last night talking?
They
I
went
went.
3 hours. I went to bed.
Oh, okay. I was still up, but my sister, actually my half sister, had surgery yesterday, so
Oh
I
my
was on the
god!
phone a bit. So yeah. But when I got back off the phone, I looked at the computer and everyone was still. A lot of people were still on talking. So I think it's great, though. Wonderful. So
I
yeah. Wait, where did Evan go?
Testing.
Maybe he left.
Testing.
Oh, oh, there's Eric.
very triggered right now.
So Ariel, you must work a later shift. Focus on you.
I work from home. I run
Oh, right. Okay.
a little bit of everything.
A lot of other noise going on somewhere. Oh, bullshit, man.
It's adorable that you can say bullshit, man, in such a affectionate kind of tone. It's
I
like
know.
bullshit, man. Yeah.
Tim was all shocked because I typed fucker.
Hi.
Eric!
Triggered!
How triggered are you tonight?
Oh no. I was just having fun with that.
Scale of
Position he's in, lying down. See, I may be able to stay on for hours, but I'll have to do that, maybe.
That's a bit of a looks like a house.
See? Once I get more comfortable with this, maybe I'll do that.
To be honest, I'd be much more comfortable doing it from a desk, but then I wouldn't have any place to prop this phone up. So
It's okay. No worries. And I recognize Brian. I think you
Hey.
maybe were on Hi the first night we were talking.
Yeah,
That's right. It was just dark.
right.
You were talking about your brother worked for the Hillary
Yes, he
group
did.
or something. Okay, I remember.
How did that work out?
It didn't work out very well. He and I don't talk much anymore.
Obviously, the election didn't work out well.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ugh.
Isn't that sad though? It really kind of is. The rifts that happen in families, but you start to see like where people's values are. Like
Yeah.
like when Obama ran, I had two friends. I'm not joking. I had no idea they were racist. That sounds just really stupid, but it just never came up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they couldn't give me any other explanation until I finally pinned them down. It was just straight up because he was black. I
Wow.
was like, wow, okay. Enough of that then.
Yeah.
We learned things about our
What
family and friends. Maybe we didn't always want to know.
disturbed me though was my brother has always been very progressive. He's gay and always sided with very progressive issues. And when I tried to explain to him why I was supporting Bernie and phone banking for him and working on his campaign, he kept saying, "Well, haven't you looked at Hillary?" I'm like, "Yeah, and she doesn't appeal to me in the slightest. Why would I vote for a Republican-like candidate when there's going to be a Republican running in the race anyway? That just didn't make any sense to me." And
Right.
he just blindly believed everything that she said, and I still to this day don't understand why.
You know, we have a friend that came out as gay kind of later in life, I think early 30s anyway. And he talked to me about this, and he said, you know, a lot of gay male couples don't have kids. They're dual income. Maybe they live in New York or San Francisco, and we don't want to see our taxes go up.
Wow.
And I hadn't really thought about it that way, but you know, it's really interesting.
Yeah, my brother does live. I mean, he does very well. He's a lawyer. He is single, doesn't have any kids. So it could have also been for very selfish reasons.
If they're going to be in that tax bracket that would have been hit,
that's possible too. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the case that, and of course, this may not be the only reason he did it, to be fair, but it does that sort of sense that, well, I get to be socially progressive, but I get to keep my taxes low. So it's a win-win for my ethics and for my ethics and for my bank account. So why wouldn't I take that? No, I don't necessarily.
Except all the stuff seems to be just lip service, and I'm not really doing it. But I mean, Hillary's, you know.
Well, obviously, we see it that way, but for a lot of Hillary supporters, they might look at it as, well, we get to feel nice about ourselves.
Exactly. We pay just enough attention to not really see what's actually happening. We stand for this. Yeah, exactly.
You stand for something.
Yeah. So wait, is Vaughn coming? I'm wondering if maybe that was a send off
No,
with baby, maybe.
I think he's
Okay.
having technical difficulties. I think he'll be back.
Oh, okay.
I just have other stuff
There
that
you
I'm
go.
doing. So
Oh, okay.
I may
Okay.
jump in when every once in a while if I can, but
Oh, sure. Well,
I'm gonna try to sit this one
time.
out. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Just wanted to make sure before we kept going.
Yeah, no
Okay.
problem.
All right. So I don't want to have like false advertising because we said we were going to cover food and health and stuff. I'm actually going to start. This is kind of weird for me because I'm really strangely kind of a private person. Like I avoided Facebook forever. I got doing Twitter because it was immediate. Anyway, it's kind of weird for me to go into a personal story, but I'm going to because right as the first time I'm supposed to host on Tuesday, I ended up having my spinal fluid leak headache really flare up really bad. So I was on camera and I looked back over it, and I don't think you can really tell, but I was in hell the next day. So I'm going to tell my story, and partly we can kind of segue into like the whole universal health care and all of that, because what happened to me was when I was 22 and I didn't have health insurance. I was a waitress and I was in a car accident, and it was a really bad one. And I didn't know it at the time because I didn't have health insurance. So I literally went in an ambulance from the wreck to the hospital. They kind of looked me over, they sent me home, and that was it. So come to find out, like 12 years later, as I'm walking around with headaches all the time, I had torn what's called your dura around your spine in my lumbar spine. And I had this gaping hole. Actually, I may post it, post my myelogram. But so I had this giant leak. And so it makes all your spinal fluid leaks out. Yeah, it's extraordinarily painful. And actually, I'm going to have a little bit of potty mouth here, as Elizabeth Beck says, because George Clooney actually suffered from this, because he did his own stunts in the movie Syriana, and his leak was in his head. You can have it in your head or anywhere in your spine.
Ugh.
But he was doing his own stunts, and they kicked him over in the chair, and he hit the floor. And George Clooney said after dealing with this for 2 weeks that he thought he was going to have to kill himself.
Yeesh.
I said, "Pussy, I've had it for 10 years." But it's extremely painful, and mine kind of will seal up and reopen. And most of the time I can just manage it. And the best way I can describe it is it's like if you took an hourglass, and the second I get up for the day, you flip it over. And I've got 8 hours most of the time. But if I am up more than that, it can knock me down for days. So for some reason, I don't know, I was doing yard work last weekend. I must have like pulled something. So that happened, and I just felt like not on top of things. But I thought I could kind of like share that and segue into like, just what can happen when you don't. I mean, I was working 2 jobs. I was 22 and I was working 2 jobs, but I didn't have insurance. So it just got ignored. And if they had caught it, because I was in this really bad wreck, we hit, I wasn't driving. The guy that was driving hit the first telephone pole at 149 miles an hour head on, flipped. We hit the back end of the car into the second telephone pole and somehow landed upright. So I was very lucky. It was his dad's Mercedes 300E, which back then not everybody had airbags. But so yeah, I'm like pulling tree parts out of my hair. I knocked my tooth out, knocked it back in myself. I don't even remember, like you're in shock. You don't feel anything, right? When it happens. So anyway, but I think things like that, like I had been in and out of Duke Hospital a lot. And if it had just been attended to like back in 94 when it happened, it might not have caused me like a lifetime of problems. So also my mother's side of the family is Canadian. And I always joke that if the socialized medicine were so bad, my grandmother for sure would have complained about it. And I don't remember hearing her say that. I'm a believer in that. And I think that, like Bernie says, if you're working full time, you shouldn't be in poverty. You shouldn't be without health care. And I was working 60 hours a week, but no health insurance. So tough luck for me. So anyway, that's the story. And if I ever have to go, that's why. It just sometimes will get me. So, but I try to mainly just live and go on. And I know, Eric, you kind of told me a little bit about what you have going on. And I know Broken Carpenter, we all,
Yeah.
have something. But
Yeah. For me, it's chronic asthma, and strong seasonal allergies. So I've had my fair bits of medical problems throughout my life, and to be honest, it wasn't until the ACA passed that my parents finally were able to alleviate some of their medical concerns for me, because I didn't know it at the time, but we were pretty close to being bankrupt when the ACA got passed, and they
Wow.
released the provisions to reduce the cost for I'm missing the
The
language.
pre-existing?
Yeah, pre-existing conditions clauses. So yeah, I have a sort of a love-hate relationship with the ACA, as that extends beyond it being just like a philosophical problem for me. But it's also kind of segues into how different health experiences lead to sort of different perspectives on the healthcare system in general.
Mhm. Did anybody? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I consider myself very lucky that I had access to really good specialists to help me with my dermatological as well as my atropic issues. But I know that that's not always something that many other people in many other states have. So I do think an awareness to that needs to be taken into account when we discuss the complexities of trying to overhaul the healthcare system. Not everybody has the same access to coverage,
Right.
even if you have the money to pay for it.
We had great insurance and we were close to two like great hospitals, and I went around for a year like they didn't know what was wrong. I had to go all the way up to Hopkins, and I'm in North Carolina, and where a nice little third year resident figured it out in 10 minutes. But sometimes you just don't get to the right person, I guess, to figure it out. I was like a mystery diagnosis. Have you ever seen that show? There's actually a lady that had a CSF leak on one of those episodes.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because at one of my first visits that I went to, this young doctor put in, because I show up with my toddler and I'm like, haven't had a shower. And I'm like, because I was really sick. And he's like, he puts in the notes somewhere, depressed housewife. Like, just decided I was depressed, right? Meanwhile, I have a gaping hole in my dura. But so then when I went to the ER within the UNC system, they'd already, she's just depressed. So it got dismissed. Yeah. Isn't that lovely?
Oh.
Did nobody bother to do like an MRI or an X-ray?
No. And for a spinal fluid leak, you have to do a specific test called a myelogram where they do a spinal tap. I've had like 40 spinal taps, but they didn't have to inject dye. But my brain was like resting on my skull. And the doc at Hopkins said they should have at least picked up on that. But they were I'm telling you, someone put in the notes, she's just depressed. And they just ignored it.
You should tell them, sure, I'm depressed, I'm in pain all the time.
Believe me, when I got back from Hopkins, there were a couple of neurologists I wanted to like meet in the parking lot with a baseball bat. Like, I mean, really, I was so angry. But anyway, so yeah, even sometimes when you have the best health, we had good insurance at that point. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's, lack of the right specialist, or if you don't live in certain parts of the country. And now, like my doctor here at Duke, and she was there the whole time, but once I could come back and tell Duke what was wrong with me, then they got me to the right person. But yeah, a lot of people have to travel across the country to come and see her, and that's huge expense, and people are going bankrupt. I just don't think it's so broken. Broken. But anyway, so I just wasn't really meaning to get really personal, but that's kind of
I think
what's going. It's just weird that happened because I've been like fine. I was up in Michigan taking care of my grandfather and didn't have it happen at all. And then like right when I'm going to do host the show for the first time, I was like, oh, we have to do this lying down with computer. But Oh, there's Broken Carpenter. He can share his story too. I
Oh
know
yeah.
it's something, if he wants to, something in his cervical spine, I think.
Well, I talked a little bit yesterday with a friend about that. That my parents never really talked to me a whole lot about healthcare when I was a kid, growing up, or a teenager. So I got the kind of rude awakening when I was about 18 and needed to have my wisdom teeth removed. And at
So
that
now
point, it was no longer covered under my parents. So, it was that rude awakening of getting a $1,200 bill and being 18 years old and not making a lot of money and going, what in the world do I do now with this? And what I ended up doing was sending them like $10 a month for a year till they got sick of it and they just canceled the debt.
Yeah, it's so overinflated too, you know.
And then not long after that, I was in a car accident and I have permanent nerve damage around the large vertebra in the back of my neck that's always in pain. I mean, it's something I have to manage with massage, chiropractic, stretching, yoga, but it's always there. And when it gets really bad, it just burns and it gets kind of numb. And also because I hit my nose really hard when I was in the accident, and like you, I didn't have insurance. They just kind of looked you over and shoved you on your way. You're fine. But I actually had a fracture in my nose that I didn't get fixed till almost 10 years later when I did have insurance. And so, yeah, no, I had a deviated septum and all that. And I had all sorts of, sinus troubles and, problems with that. And it's still not perfect, but it's better than it was. So
Yeah.
I know that, thing where you get that early hit and you don't have, thorough care. And so you're stuck with it. And who knows if they would have been able to really go in there and do a whole lot for that. Because that kind of cartilage and nerve damage can be notoriously difficult to repair. But yeah, it's a terrible feeling. And I think it definitely, like we're going to talk about also food and nutrition, but when people tell me they can't afford to eat healthy, I tell them I can't afford to not eat healthy. I don't have insurance right now. And I do everything I can to eat healthy, take good supplements, exercise, sleep enough. I really am very conscientious of how I care for my body because that, spending a little extra for healthy food and supplements is a lot less than thousands and thousands of dollars of medical bills if your poor health causes a problem.
See, I noticed Broken Carpenter's got. Are you just getting comfortable with the thing behind your neck? Do you want to?
Yeah. Do I got sound now?
Yes,
Yeah.
you have sound.
Yes.
Far out. Okay.
So I know that night. Oh, maybe it was the second night. I was on one night where I wasn't really the one hosting, and I was fine. And he had to leave and go lie down. I remember. And then it was the next one. It was really me, but I stayed up stupidly. But yeah, how did you injured yourself on the job?
Actually, I have no idea. I was I've been a carpenter for like 20 years doing built like bridges and high rises and stuff. And I had before that I had 3 inguinal hernias. I had 2 hernia fixes and then I ripped out one of them. So I had to go back through that whole thing. And you learn a lot about the healthcare system we got. It's not fast. It's not fast. Anybody tells you our healthcare system, they got waiting lists, and it's BS. Nothing's fast.
No,
you go to your doctor. Your doctor says go see this specialist. Okay, but before you go to the specialist, got to get the insurance company to give you an okay. Now, that guy isn't in your program, so you got to get another guy. So you go to the doctor with the list. He picks one out. You go to that guy, and that guy may not even catch whatever it is. My third hernia, it took me going to several different doctors, and I finally went to this one old codger, and he looked at me. He goes, "You got a hernia." I was just, I've been to this doctor and that doctor and this doctor. He says, I don't give a good goddamn who told you you don't have a hernia. You got a hernia. Because they had even done the surgery through the belly button thing that time to look, and the guy didn't find it. It was like quarter-sized rip in me. But, But then the neck thing just came on all of a sudden. It was like in March I can't even remember. It was like '07. It was, I suddenly had like an intense headache. I thought I was just having a migraine. You know, I've had them a lot of my life, so it was no biggie. But it just stayed with me, and I went to sleep. Woke up the next morning, and like my right side was numb. So that one eventually, that was when they took out the three discs out of my neck.
Ooh.
And yeah, like I say, I've learned a lot about doctors and stuff and going to them. So, you know, yeah, we have great health care if you've got the right insurance for it. Like when I was an active carpenter, my insurance was pretty damn good. But once you buy into Cobra and stuff, the policy changes a little bit. And then even with my pension now, even that, my wife's still got to pay for care. I don't think is the same as when we started. I mean, she was carpenter too. And so we were actually paid twice when we first got married for one set of insurance. So anyhow, I mean, that's kind of my story, long short.
Yeah,
You know,
it's a very, very broken system.
It is and it isn't. You know what? If they just said tomorrow, go in there with your social security card or, you know, with your number this time, get a new copy when you need, you know, as soon as you can, and walk in there with your social security card and say, you know, this is the payment for the doctor. Get your health care done, you know, and the government will take care of it. Just switch it over all in one day.
Right.
You know, it'll be, you know, you can figure it, they can figure it out.
Well,
You know,
right. The other problem I think is I happen to have a really great regular doctor now. I wish I'd had him before, but he's friends with my neuroradiologist at Duke's, which I'm so thankful for. But he takes all this time with patients, and I don't know how he still manages to do that because you know you hear so much the doctors it's like turning tables. They can't take all this time with each patient because they're set up, you know, to be able to make money for their practice. You know, it's like if we just cut out the middleman,
Yes.
insurance companies, you know, then that wouldn't be an issue, you know? Because a lot of times when I would go, you get there, I'd be really sick. I finally get to the doctor and they haven't even looked at anything because they're seeing 30 patients in one day. So they walk in and they're like, you know, my file is this thick and they haven't even looked at it yet. So that's really inefficient. But if we had it more where they were able to take the time with patients because it wasn't a turn them and burn them system, it would work better.
Very true. And Kelly, I would definitely agree with you because I've noticed, you know, whenever I go to, I've had the same like general practitioner, for like 15 years. And I've noticed that every time I go, especially more recently, it's like he's in this corporate system where they only let you basically address one thing. And it's like 15 minutes in and out, and they will not go further. And it's hard because he's a really conscientious person, but he's working within a system that's set up like going to the mall, you know, buy something and get out of here. And that's what it is. It's like it's all for profit. And when you have a for profit, you're going to get what you need. I also have an acupuncturist, and I've known her a very long time as well. And she actually, about 12 years ago, changed from the place that she was practicing when I first met her because they were doing the same thing to her, which was limiting her time with her patients. And she said, I can't work under that sort of system because I can't take the time and really get to the point of what I need to do for someone. And so it's not just insurance, it's not just the pharmaceutical companies, it's also these corporate clinics and these facilities that are running themselves like a darn business. And we're just the commodity, we're just the object, we're the thing that, you know, gets the money. That's it.
I feel like I'm hogging too much here. I'm going to say one more thing, then we'll let everybody else jump in here. I guess this is one of the arguments that people make against, well, if everybody has health care, then there's really going to be no time, right? Which is an interesting argument, but
Hmm.
I've had a lot of good experience with PAs, physician assistants, and I know they don't have as much training, but I've found some of them to be better than doctors. So, I mean, we could have more programs where people don't have to go 60 grand in debt to become a PA. You know, I mean, we can work around that. What are you going to say?
Here's
Yeah.
here's the thing. I've heard this argument, and the reason why it doesn't hold any water is simply this: the reason why our doctors in this system are so overworked is because a lot of times they take the time to treat a patient initially. So, in other words, too often things get missed, and that is what generates more work down the road. So, if they were able to take the time and take care of the patient, right as they came in and solve the issue then,
Right.
it reduced their workload later on. That's the whole point. When you remove the profit incentive, you
Mhm.
create a more efficient system in this system.
Right.
So
Yeah, we need like every hospital, I think, needs a house MD, you know, the diagnostic guy. Because yeah, we're just always treating the symptoms. I
and that is
I think if anybody new is on,
more work.
we hear some feedback.
So if they were able to take the time and take care of the patient,
Yeah, we had this happen a lot. So if anyone just joined and you have the YouTube playing, it's a little bit of a delay and then it.
when you remove the profit incentive, yeah, it sounds like somebody's got it playing
That's
in the
okay.
background.
We all do that when we first joined on. I had it on also. Let's see who we have. Bullshit Man and James Young at Mana Talk. That sounds familiar. I think I follow that person. Hello. But there. Let's see. Okay, it stopped. So anyway, let's see. Yes, I think we basically treat symptoms a lot in
Right.
in this country. I mean, because mine was neurological in nature, and I had this gut feeling it was mechanical. A couple of times I said, "Could it be something in my spine?" Because I remembered my back hurting after the wreck. They just ignored me. Here, take some Depakote. I'm like, what is that? Oh, it's anti-seizure. I don't have epilepsy. I mean, but they were. If I had taken everything they gave me, I'd been on like 30 different neurological drugs. And then I was labeled a difficult patient because I'm like, I'm not taking that. You don't even know what you're giving it to me for. So we don't get to the root of the problem. And granted, you can't always, but there just doesn't seem to be much effort in that a lot of times. But,
Well, like
The-
like neurologists are only about one step above surgeons on the Dante's hell inferno. I mean, as far as bedside manners goes, you're talking about doctors who took a long time. The doctor that found my hernia took the time. The doctor that found my neck problem took the time. Every time that my doctor's been able to find something, it's because he took some time and actually knew me. And so I agree totally that, more PAs, I love PAs. I mean, if I'm going in there for about 90% of the stuff, like right now, they're trying to fine tune 1,000 blood pressure things and stuff. But like usually, PAs more than enough, so I think that's, community health centers, PAs, doctors overseeing them. It can be done. It's just a will. It's just a will to build the infrastructure, and also to, you have to negotiate everything. Do it like Germany. I think in Germany they negotiate all the prices with the doctors. So it's just like they do with insurance companies. They just code stuff, send it in, and they get paid for the code. So it's not complicated to give them one form and say, here's the code, here are this list of payments, And if you're going to be a doctor in the United States, this is the payments you will accept. You know, it used to be a doctor's job was a middle class job. And, you know, it sort of got twisted a little bit because of the profit motive and going into specialties and stuff. So suddenly we had less general practitioners and we have a zillion specialists, and, you know, we're paying too much for everybody. So, I mean, and paying for, I think if you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a nurse, you don't have any college debt. You know, if you're going to be one of those professions, you know, or a paramedic, you don't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
Because that is you know, you're putting yourself into the civil service, basically.
Exactly. Yes.
The best advice I can give is if you ever have anything like complicated or unusual and you go to a new doctor and they're really arrogant, just leave.
Yeah.
Because it's the ones that admit that they don't know everything. It's the ones like my doctor at Duke that's like, I learned from each patient. The ones that know it all right when you walk in the door, they don't learn anything and they don't figure out the complicated cases. But anyway, hi, Stevie.
Oh,
I think Stevie's on. Who else is on?
I would also say very little is done in the way of, I mean, forget about just curative. How about preventative? I mean, that's the biggest thing. And, you know, the whole idea about people saying, oh, well, if everybody can go to the doctor, then they'll be packed. No, they won't, because the point is, if you have healthcare that you know you can use, you go and get something looked at before it turns into a giant problem.
Right.
Cut a lot of things off of the past. That's why other countries generally have lower cost.
Right.
Because people go to the doctor and get the little thing looked at before it becomes the giant thing that is the, you know, going to cost a huge fortune to have done. Here, we're so scared of the bill, we wait and we wait and we wait till we're about dead. And then it costs a ton. And that's, you know, that's a huge part of it. But we don't even address the whole person. That's why I love traditional Chinese medicine, is because that is about treating the whole body and balancing the body and not just going, well, you got pain here, so we're just going to look at that. Well, you got pain here, but that could mean something's going on over here in a totally different place. So really treating the whole person is really what it's about. And, you know, I mean, chiropractors should be covered. Massage therapy, physical therapy, all these things should be covered because those are things that reduce stress. And again, they prevent bigger problems down the road.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially with pain syndrome.
Absolutely. And when Stevie gets on here, she can definitely address that too, because I think she watched that same talk that I did when Bernie did the town hall in West Virginia. And he talked about the stress of not having health care. And that's almost, it's an entirely different entity unto itself. It's not just that I don't have the health care, it's that because I don't, I'm stressed out every day. And I know that that's true for myself. You know, I'm a pretty healthy person, so I'm not really super afraid, but you never know. If you're going to break a bone or, you know, an appendicitis might pop up or just some crazy thing. Grand, just like that. It's scary. It really, truly is.
Car accident. Going backward in time, Coco.
Okay. By the way, I'm Ariel Rose Music on the Tim chat, but on my Mac, I'm Coco Van Bunsen, which is my rabbit's name.
Well, I'm just using my real name.
He's a very elegant Dutch rabbit.
I dig Ariel. I dig that name.
She's my sweetheart. Anyway.
So other people on here, I guess they look like they're muted. I don't know if they want to be muted or if I should try to.
No, Jim is not muted. James.
Oh, okay.
You know, I don't know why I put James Young at Monotalk. Does anybody know what mono means? Does anybody know what that means?
Sort of, kind of. I mean, there's
in Polynesian terms. Does anybody?
Oh wait, are you in Hawaii? Are you the guy from Hawaii?
The only man I know is
I am the guy. I'm not from Hawaii, but I am Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, mana means it's kind of like your chi, your yin and your yang.
like prana.
And if you guys look up, when you get a chance, just type it in sometime. Max Freedom Long, this explorer discoverer, went into the islands about during the early 1900s, late 1900s, and he actually got the real history and culture and nailed it and did a great job. Max Freedom Long. Look up Huna, and mana is just, our spirit. I know that Ariel / Coco Van Buren loves this kind of stuff, which is good. But what it is it's like the inner power of your soul and your spirit, which I'm still kind of contemplating, because I'm more of like a realist. I'm more of like, if it's there, if it's tangible, it's working. If I can use 3 of my 5 senses, then it's pretty damn true. If I can use 4 of my 5 senses, then it's pretty true. If it's, you see what I'm saying? The less senses that I use, the more unreal I think it is. So I do believe that mana is something that we all kind of grow and share, which is kind of like the unity that we're building here. Like we have even though it's through these airways, I do believe that we all have a mana. I think some people spiritually have more light, in a sense, within them at times. But in the case of the doctors, and what we used to do in practice is, if you look up Max Freedom Long, is they removed a lot of the consonants and a couple of the vowels, I think. But what they did is they changed the culture, because the missionaries, when they came over and started beating, Christianity into everybody's brains, literally, they took away some of the culture. There were these kahunas,
right,
that used to do these practices, and it was written by many other discoverers and people that researched that area, that they were doing some pretty amazing things. They didn't have doctors, so they used a lot of like a chi or a mana or something to heal or drive out bad spirits. And this happened everywhere. 100, 150, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, there are still cultures around the corner, somewhere in the middle of, wherever, that still use these ancient practices of using the spirit of mana or some channeling of force. It really makes no sense to me, but it's still used. But that's all they had back then. So now we have modern medicine, and we have drugs, and now we have big pharma.
Right.
But the thing is do you want to take a chance on some guy with a bunch of feathers on his head dancing around you, or that's waving his arms, doing the Mr. Miyagi clap,
Sure.
and it put his healing hands on you?
Well,
or would you rather have somebody that's gone to UCLA,
right,
or UCI over here is a great medical college.
I absolutely
Have the practice.
hear that.
What do you do?
What my feeling is, I would say that, like with my dad, 4 years ago, he was diagnosed with colon cancer. They told him they'd never seen more cancer in somebody in their life, and this was an old doctor. Wonderful feeling. He had it in the colon, in the liver, and big tumors all around the outside of his stomach. They said he had 6 months to live, and they said he could die any day because it was so bad. So we didn't jump right on the chemo like they wanted. We did about 2 months of naturopathic treatments where they give IVs that are full of intense amounts of vitamin C and other nutrients, because when you administer vitamin C in that level, it blows the cancer up, basically, lack of a better terminology. It got the cancer activity down by 50% just in 2 months. Yeah, it got the cancer activity down. And
wait, time out. So you're saying that even if it's 20%,
yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah.
And just by administering natural substances that don't destroy other parts of your body, and
Exactly.
you know, that's huge. Do you have record of this? Is anybody?
Oh
That's
yeah,
pretty
and
amazing.
I would say that, you know, so after that, not only that, but it boosted his system up to be able to handle the chemo. And what we did with the doctors is we talked them down to doing a lower level of the chemo. And so between those two treatments, he went from 60,000 tumor markers at the beginning to less than 10 in 5 months. About
Oh
5
my God.
He's still alive 4 years
Wow.
later. This is
That's really
it
amazing.
was stage 4. It was like they were ready. They said, "Go home and get your affairs in order. Plan your coffin." Basically, I mean, it was that severe. So no, it really was this definitely 1 in a million. But you know, the oncologists were like, "What are you doing? What is it that you're doing?" Well, whatever it is, keep doing it. They never wanted to say, "Oh yeah, the natural stuff is great," because a lot of them were saying, "Oh no, that stuff will just make you feel better, but it's not really gonna get rid of the cancer." I was like, "Well, feeling better is good, right?"
Oh
Yeah.
God,
Back to
yeah.
your original point, though, is my feeling is, you know, you go from the extremes of shiny new modern medicine to the guy with the feathers waving in a rattle around you. I think there's a balance between the two somewhere that actually gets you where you want to go, because not everything in modern medicine is ridiculous. Not all of it is irrelevant, but
Mhm.
they don't balance enough with the traditional and, again, the whole body approach. And that's what I would say, you know, about my dad's situation, was that we got the best response and the best outcome by blending the two.
Yeah, wow.
Ignoring one or the other is at great peril. That's another reason I love like traditional Chinese medicine, because that is something that's been around literally for thousands of years, that and acupuncture. And those principles tie into martial arts. They tie into their astrology. They tie into feng shui. Everything has a part. Like this year is the year of the fire rooster. Fire relates to the heart energy. So if you go to a TCM doctor and you get looked at and you've got a lot of heat, you know, in that area, they might give you an herb, or they'll do acupuncture to bring the heat down in that area of the body so that the rest of the system gets balanced. So there's a balance between the old and the new. Yeah.
My husband was recently traveling overseas, well, actually to India to train his replacements.
Oh gosh. Oh.
Yeah. He luckily found another job immediately after, but yeah, anyway, he's in IT, and yeah. But he got in a conversation with another guy there, was from South Africa, and he's like, what is with the whole like GoFundMe seems to be your new healthcare system?
Terrible.
Like everyone's having to do a GoFundMe account for, you know, not just when you have a healthcare issue, like what we had when I got very sick. My youngest was 2, so we had a toddler, and my oldest was 8. And my husband's trying to hold down a job and a long commute, and it was just a nightmare, like just getting groceries, and like we needed a whole support system, and we didn't have it. So I just think it's yeah, it's just very broken that our country is having, unless you're wealthy and have a lot of family support, you don't, you're turning to GoFundMe page.
We treat healthcare like a luxury, and it's not. It's not like, oh, I got sick, so I need to go buy a Mercedes. It's not luxury, but we treat it like it is. If, you know, people complain about that and say, well, America's got the greatest facilities. Yeah, that's true. We probably do have really good facilities and really good stuff, but if nobody can afford it, what good does it do you?
Right.
And we have to pay for it. It's easier to grift a lot of money from the government in armaments, you know, in contracts overseas, you know, in crisis situations. So you blow up another country, you go in and you sell all your wares, and it's easier to commit large scale fraud, you know. So that's why they do. You know, the medicine, there's companies, but they got it all sort of lined up for ages. This military thing, it's been going on for ages too, but you know, in those two you know sides, the military wins every time. So that's just the way that goes.
It's a
So
power.
hopefully a lot of Trump supporters that voted for him, that, you know, if they lose their health care, maybe they'll come around to our side or to whatever side we're on. But
It's sad because sometimes I feel that people only start to really examine that when it hits them personally or someone that they love, and then they really see how it actually is. It's easy to say,
Right.
oh, that stuff doesn't matter when it's always happening to somebody else. And that gets into our societal breakdown of really being desensitized from the suffering of others and the needs of others. And instead of coming together and saying, you know, we should all be there for each other, whether we know them or not, you know, this every man for himself thing, which is very dangerous for humans because that's detrimental to our existence.
Like, I remember, because I used to work in a trauma surgical ICU, and I hadn't been there that long, and this was right before, I guess, was it Affordable Health? Is it the Affordable Care Act, the one that Obama did?
Yes, ma'am.
It was right before that went through, and the big shot at the hospital came down and had a staff meeting and told us that, you know, how Obamacare was bad and we should be scared of it, and that, you know, the hospital is a business and you know, that's their function, and that they have to make this money, and if they don't make the money, then they would cut jobs. And so they, you know, threatened our jobs, basically, and said that, you know, I mean, sure, I mean, if you want Obamacare to pass, I mean, you know, we're just going to fire you. I mean, it's crazy. And the prices that I've seen, you know, just for like a Tylenol, it's like $20-some for a Tylenol or something. Yeah. It's so everything that is how it's set up is flawed. The way we charge for it, the insurances. I mean, like, just it's corruption at every turn.
So
There's no price controls.
Right.
Yeah. My wife had glioblastoma. It's the most aggressive brain cancer.
Oh.
She was misdiagnosed as having kidney failure instead. And her undergraduate degree was in chemical engineering, and her graduate degree was in plant physiology. And she developed a process for me to remove, because she thought she had kidney failure, could not process potassium. She developed there wasn't that many foods that we could fix to take potassium out of. We came up with a way to remove potassium from everything in her diet. And the typical time with treatment of survival for glioblastoma is 3 months. And she survived for 1 year without treatment, except for because she was with the kidney problems. We'd go in for every 2 weeks for tests and biopsies, and they kept doing biopsies and finding nothing wrong with her kidneys, but they kept saying she had kidney disease. And until she had a seizure, there was no clue that there was anything wrong with the brain. In fact, it was 6 weeks after she had the seizure before they finally figured out that she had anything wrong with the brain, before they even discovered it was cancer. And after they discovered that it was cancer, she was able to live another 2 years.
Wow.
And I was speaking with a professor of oncology about it, and we told them what we did with the food and everything, how we prepared it, and they think that will actually reduce the time it takes to diagnose a glioblastoma with the work that she did just on her own, trying to figure out what to do. And the current practices are so separate from that it just doesn't make it. To confirm her studies, we actually gave her body to a university to study.
Oh, wow.
And followed up on it. But the diet aspect comes in really strong there. Again, when I talked to the professor, what is the mode of propagation for glioblastoma? It moves through the body by elevating the levels of potassium in the bloodstream, and then uses potassium as a pump to pump the cancer through the body. So it was nailed right on. She basically didn't stop her cancer, but she slowed it down really to the point where it made an extreme difference. And
I'm so sorry for your loss. She sounds like an amazing person.
yeah, thanks. But most of the doctors that we spoke to had to take the simplest classes you could imagine in order to get high enough grades to get through school. I'd only met 4 physicians knowledgeable enough about chemistry to even know that glioblastoma propagated with potassium. In Europe, they were doing studies with using vanadium to stop metastasis, especially from like breast cancer. In the United States, you can't even do that. You cannot test vanadium. So far, in all of the European trials, vanadium stops metastasis. So I don't know the properties of it myself, but something in vanadium just does not allow metastasis. As many people as got cancer in the United States, that, if Biden really wanted a cancer Manhattan Project, that's where I would start. When I found out about this, how do you get it? There's a lot of times biology is just absolutely wonderful. And there's a creature in the wild that is a natural concentrator of vanadium. And it's real hard to find anywhere else. And so my first thought was, oh, don't let it be cute. Don't let it be cute. So all of us that were on this, that volunteered on this another project, we all just lost somebody to cancer. And we said, okay, what did we learn from our families' cancers, and what we need to put it to use? And so we looked at, how do we get vanadium? How can we get more vanadium to people? Now, don't go taking vanadium as a prophylactic, because 1.9 grams of potassium or of vanadium in your bloodstream will kill you.
Darn it. Oh, man, it was sounding so good.
Well,
yeah, I was on my list.
Is this like potassium? Is potassium in general bad then?
Well, you have to, everything has its numbers. Too little, you die. Too much.
Enough potassium will kill you.
And with potassium, you got to remember, potassium is the potassium ion in the bloodstream is the main component of how they kill dogs.
Oh, yuck.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like euthanasia.
Yeah.
Right.
So, everything has to be controlled. You just can't dump anything in. But anyway, we found the creature. The creature is the ugliest creature on the planet.
Oh, good. What is it?
Wow.
It looks like a stomach that's been cut out of something and dyed purple.
Nice.
Oh,
ouch. There's some caterpillar that has looks like Donald Trump hair. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
This creature's so ugly, it doesn't have eyes. That's how it mates.
Oh, okay. Well, that's convenient.
Ladies would run.
but anyway, and I checked. It is legal to catch them off of the coast of Florida.
What are they called?
I'm trying to think what they are. We had all kinds of nicknames for them.
Is it called the vomitesius?
No.
Vomitesius pucamanius.
Let me see what it is here.
Oh my God, I don't even want to see the picture of it. He's gonna say it. He's gonna say it. I'm gonna
look it up. Yeah. Okay. Strange looking creature field.
When I hear Snork talk, just want to say, I hear Snork talk. When I hear him talk, I am just like, you just see the plethora of knowledge that just exudes,
I agree.
just oozing out of his body.
Well, it's interesting what he's saying about
well, consulting in different fields, it gives you exposure to a lot of fun things. I accidentally saved the company I was working for $3 million a day for a year and a half. And the bad thing was that boss's rate of pay was based on how much total money we spent for the operation. And when you cut out, we were at a 3-shift, 24-hour-a-day facility. When you cut that kind of savings out of an operation, we went from being unprofitable and trying to say, what can we do to fix our problems? And that's why I was there. I was a problem fixer. To being suddenly profitable. And we were actually able to sell the company for a lot of money. But my boss, he still got a wonderful salary. He bought an island after he retired. So to keep his wonderful salary, he forced me to spend $3 million a month on research.
Oh, man.
Some universities kill for that amount of grant. And I had to solve an unusual problem where I needed to control heat. I needed to control pressure to the 1/200th of a PSI, and needed to control and monitor the current flow that was happening in this process. So I got all kinds of experience in unusual metals and energy. I really got into thermoelectronics, and you can basically pull electricity off of anything. They're about the size of, 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches and about 1/8 of an inch thick. And you can put it between something hot like boiling water and cold water on the other side. And, somehow you have to put them in aluminum or something so that's isolated. And you can pull off 12 volts at 20 amps.
Wow.
Which is actually a lot more efficient than solar panels. Well, it depends on how you applicate. If you're going out in the wild and you got unconcentrated sunlight, it doesn't go as much. But I got all kinds of experience in those fields. And then the last few years, I started helping people in other fields. And when you go outside your field to help other people. Now, what I do is I'm not the chef. So let's use the pizza analogy, a pizza parlor analogy. I'm not the cook. I'm the person that figures out how to make the box. It's not a product until it goes in the box. So, somebody else figures out we need this ion to get into this cell. And I figured out how to push a piece of DNA into a cell without splicing the DNA and get it into the mitochondria. Because it's the same thing as figuring out how do I pierce this tank with this projectile. It's just a smaller thing with a smaller bullet. And so I bounce around from all different types of fields and have fun with it. And sorry if I got off track there, but,
Oh,
but
No, it's
back
great.
back.
I actually kind of want to segue to something I was saying the other night about, I was kind of talking about how I think it's a problem that kids today, I hate to say especially girls, but we have kind of a lack of focus on the STEM, on science, technology, and math. And every girl just wants to be the next actress on the whatever Grey's Anatomy. I mean, it just I hear you talking, and honestly, a lot of it's over my head. I'm not great at science. I was a communications major, but I wonder if we're going to be able, the future. A lot of people complain there are all these people coming over and taking our jobs. A lot of people coming over from India and other places, they seem to have a better basis for a lot of this for education. I mean, that concerns me a lot. It's why I tell my
Well,
daughter, no, we're watching Mythbusters. We're not watching.
It's not the same in every state.
yeah,
But,
and so some of it is actually this. Some of it's a labor issue. It's the issue of there are Americans that are trained. That's why that whole we got to retrain people. There are a lot of people trained to do things, but the tech companies have found out they can hire Indians to come over and live here cheaper than hiring people. You know what I mean? They've got setups that they use the H-1B visa system to displace people in software engineering and things like that. Especially, I know this just from having lived in the Portland area.
Yeah, there's actually an engineering glut right now. If you're over 40, it's really hard to get a job. Basically, an H-1B will be brought in at 1/3 your rate. And you usually have to train the H-1B when they get here.
Yep.
And a lot of them end up leaving and going to another job that pays more because they don't want to be paid 1/3. As soon as they're eligible to shift, or sometimes without even getting approval, they will shift. I've been in Europe. I've had European engineers, Swedish, German, working for me. Their education is remarkable. The Swedish engineers do not go to a 4-year program. It's their master's or their bachelor's equivalent to our master's. It's a 6-year program where there is a mandatory internship, and it is not an individual action. It is a participative event where the country is actively grooming them to be engineers. Here in the United States, we're actively preventing people from being engineers. We do everything we can to poorly prepare them. We give a heavy workload in a very short period of space that isn't realistic to what they're going to see in the field. So not only in engineering do we need to rethink it, in medical training we rethink it as well. When I look at it from a system point of view, the entire medical system hierarchy needs to be altered. Currently, the AMA limits the number of doctors trained in the United States. So we have to bring a lot of doctors overseas, not only because doctors aren't available, it's that we will not train them. The only way to get the extra doctors we need is come overseas because, face it, there's discrimination. A lot of people, if they see that Indian name, will not go to that doctor.
It's true. My dad is that way. If he sees an Indian name at his oncologist, he says, "Keep me away from that one."
Right.
Yeah.
So the actual AMA thing still works because that limited number of American doctors that gets trained get paid 2 to 3 times what an Indian doctor will get paid. That's probably going to correct over time, but that's how it is now. And
they make 2 to 3 times that now. There was a day when doctors weren't that much richer than anybody else. They figured out a way to control the labor market and encrypt it, just like you're saying, so they can control exactly how many, so that, and they're actually cutting off their nose because of what you're saying.
And I'd like to see the medical training system change to a 10-tier system where the doctors must go through the route. They must be a nurse before they're a doctor, even if it's only a year. Pilots, when they're trained, start off as until they get their solo, and then they get a private license, then they get a commercial, then they get the different ratings as they go on. There's 6 different instrument ratings for people to fly aircraft. And it's a learning stuff where they have to be taking tests as they're going along. And I would like to see doctors do the same thing, where it is a learning system where you go through, and then you have different levels of responsibility each thing. Physician's assistants were mentioned earlier. Typically, a physician's assistant doesn't have the arrogance of a doctor, and they will recheck their work. My wife's cancer was caught by a physician's assistant, not by 6 doctors.
Right.
You got me, man. I'm a firm believer.
Okay, so I'm this thing where they make them stay up 36 hours on a shift. That's got to go.
That's stupid.
That is the same as a DOI.
Oh, yeah.
That. I would see these doctors, especially like the residents, and they were on these shifts, these horrible, like 24-hour, shifts that, they were like zombies. And I'm like, they're in charge of somebody's life? Like,
yeah, and it's basically slave labor. But I'd like to see it rescheduled where the government pay for the medical training, have it be over a period of years, that they get paid while they're learning, and they're doing a job, and have more of a respect for everything that happens. Because usually a doctor is in charge of the hospital, and really they should be understanding of as much of the facility as possible.
And while they're being trained, that you can, offer them, like apartments and housing and things like that, childcare, the things they need to support them to make their life easier. You can do that to help the doctors be more. We were talking earlier about different things that everybody uses. Okay. I went to a great psychologist that, started teaching me meditation. I did a little bit of meditating, but she taught me skills to use to you don't resist pain. It's like you got pain times resistance, and that's how you feel. That's how you actually feel. If you sort of go with the pain, you can deal with a lot more pain than if you fight it. And so I learned mindfulness and meditation. And what it did was allow me to do things like, even when I'm having a conversation, I can take like a basically, I always have a pain in my head, like the shape like this. I can take it and break it down while I'm talking to you, because I learned how to just sort of look at it as a shape and not a pain, sort of like pull it out and look at it. And, if you look at pain, it's sort of, it's like going after a boulder with a hammer. You don't try to knock the boulder in half. You try to start knocking little chunks off of it. So if you can learn to knock little chunks off your pain, you can maintain easier. And it really helps, because it allowed me to take less opioids when I was taking opioids, and right now I'm sort of in a position where I do need something else to sort of help with my pain, but I'm much easier. It's much easier because of the skills I've learned from that psychologist, and other skills that I learned from just having the same pain for so long. You eventually learn things, and it makes it easier to deal with it. But
the American Indians that named Chicago have a lettuce that has they use for painkiller. It is better than aspirin, and it is not addictive like opium. If it's concentrated, which currently isn't anywhere, I don't know anywhere you can buy it concentrated. I'm trying to find anybody that does, but it's is not addictive. It's not a narcotic in any way.
That's the whole issue right now, is that we have so many people who aren't, as a result of getting either poor or inadequate treatment, end up they just throw them onto, an opiate-based painkiller, and they get addicted to it. That's it. And so, Broken Carpenter, what you're talking about is something that most people don't want to take the time to do, which is to learn, other ways of managing their pain. They usually do just want the painkiller because they're hurting. As simple as that.
Well, and you got to understand, when you have chronic pain, it's not like when you fall and it hurts and you sort of, you can get it to loosen up a little bit. The pain's always there. It never disappears. And so you live your life like that. You wake up like that, and it gets to be it's really tiring. It can make you isolate really bad. I mean, it's just like, it's especially bad when you add an opiate, because it's already it will make anybody isolate. And even worse, you add opiates and you don't feel anything, so you don't care about going anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Now I use herbal based painkiller myself, but I live in Washington State where everything's legal.
Yeah.
So, but so I mean,
Well, so far they haven't illegalized lettuce. And that's where I was really intrigued when I learned that it was a variety of lettuce that has a painkiller in it.
What's the name of it?
I'm trying to find it.
Medicine. Something when I first started researching my dad's cancer and natural things that we could do for it, one of the things that actually works very well, especially for lymphoma or lymphatic cancers, is something called B17. It's also it's got a lot of different names, but basically what it is the seed that comes from the inside of an apricot. If you eat an apricot and you get the little pit, you can bust that thing open, and there's a seed inside it that looks like a little almond almost, and it tastes like an almond on speed. It's very intense and very medicinal tasting.
What is it?
It's basically B17 or amygdalin. There's a lot of different names for it.
What kind of fruit was it?
Apricot.
That's
apricot seeds.
Oh,
so here's the thing about that.
Yeah, that'll kill you.
It's no. That's what they want you to think. Let me explain.
Okay. When somebody tells me that taking a certain amount of something will kill me, I sort of listen. But that's me.
Cyanide. It's a type of cyanide that is in this. Okay. So that's the thing, right? And it's not legal to purchase in the U.S. They don't market it here. I was actually able to purchase it from Mexico. And you can actually get it in a pill form. But the thing that they don't tell you, this is totally repressed. Our medical system is so repressed, and you will be blown. Your mind will be blown when you start researching this kind of stuff. Is that the type of cyanide that's in an apricot pit does not react against a healthy cell. If it's not in contact with a cancer, it doesn't do anything. It's basically inert. You can take them all day long. I don't recommend doing that, but I don't recommend overdosing on it. But
I wouldn't take too many. An ion's an ion.
Responds to a certain chemical that cancer cells put off, and once that happens, it does react. Okay?
How to think of?
But you can't just take the B17 if you've got cancer and expect to be all right. The thing about cancer cells is that they build up a hard shell coating around themselves because your body's protecting itself from the cancer. That's why I've never had a mammogram. That's a personal choice, because what they do when they squish your breast in that machine, If you've got a cancer pocket in there, guess what? You just busted it right open. It's going to spread like wildfire now. That's why surgery is not a good idea if you've got cancer, unless you've got someone who really knows what they're doing. Because you cut into a cancer cell, you open up that coating, and it's going to spread. So the thing that you have to do in conjunction with taking a B17 regimen, and I would recommend talking to a naturopath if you ever know someone that's thinking about it, you have to take zinc citrate. You have to take a certain blend of pancreatic enzymes, B15, which oxygenates the body, because without those, the B17 cannot penetrate that coating that your body places around the cancer. It can't get in there to work. So you have to take a blend of things to get it to function right. And again, like I said, food is medicine. Lemon water every day with a little bit of baking soda will help alkalize your body. Cancer can't live in a high oxygen environment or a highly alkaline environment. And it thrives on sugar. So if you think about how much sugar, and I know Stevie has talked about how sugar is in everything, it's no wonder that Americans' rate of cancer is absolutely epidemic. And it is an epidemic.
The problem I find with that, like, I'm sorry, I have a huge sweet tooth.
Yeah.
I like my dessert, but I don't eat.
The thing is, the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you want. It's a very
true
substance.
That's true, but I am very particular. Like, I don't want sugar in my food. Like, if it's tomato sauce or, I think that's more of the problem is that the sugar in the stuff that's not dessert. You know, like if you're eating all that stuff, plus you're drinking soda, plus you're having dessert, you know, it's just late. There's a movie called Fed Up. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. And it talks about that and how we have told people to exercise it off, which is like impossible because why is sugar in like classic round crackers? I mean, why do we have sugar in that? So I have a big sweet tooth, but that's for like dessert. And it's like, I don't eat any corn syrup, no junk. I like my gelato. But, you know, I think if you can, I don't believe in deprivation either.
No, and I think moderation is key.
Yeah, but it's just that we need
moderation is a true key. It keeps balance.
Right. But why, I just don't understand why we have, and kids, if they grow up like tomato sauce is supposed to taste like tomatoes.
Yeah.
Not corn syrup. And
Not
then, but I think, yeah, and I'm really opinionated about this and, but I think it starts with baby formula. You know, if you look at the ingredients of that stuff, it's pretty bad. And I know sometimes people have to use that. There's no way around it. And it also starts when kids are very young and they go out to a restaurant and they get a separate kids menu and it's like just junk, just chicken nuggets, and instead of them eating like the other food.
The other thing that's horrible is you see these parents that think they're doing the right thing by giving their kids, you know, brightly colored yogurt in a tube. I mean, it's nothing but a sugary substance. There's nothing really whole about that yogurt. You're not even getting the benefit of probiotics because it's just a bunch of corn syrup in a tube.
Yeah. At the same time, though,
it could be useful, like manufactured out of it.
Do what? Say that again.
Are you trying to say that you don't appreciate corn syrup in a tube?
Oh, no, I love it.
Well, but you know what? Food is expensive, and while I'm really picky about it, I also understand that we have. I think Tim's talked about this, or I think we discussed it. Just how, you know, I mean, we have areas of the country where they're like food deserts. They call them. You can't get any food. And people are working 60 hours, both parents working 60 hours a week. What's convenient and easy? I mean, when you're in that kind of a rush, it's hard. So I sort of try to reserve criticism. I get, like, when I see people that can do better with it and don't, then I think that's laziness. But I think a lot of it is just people are just trying to get by and they can't afford good food.
The ills in our society, that if you're in such a hurry that you don't have time to fix real food, what's wrong there? I mean, that's just something very deep, because to me, food is medicine that you take every single day. And you can either take food that's going to give you health and make you feel good, or it's going to deteriorate your body worse. And getting back to my story about Dr. Leela Denmark, the doctor that I knew that lived to be 114, who was my pediatrician as a kid.
Wow.
She didn't believe in eating anything artificial. She didn't believe in drinking anything but water. She wouldn't drink anything but water. She said, if you want to have orange juice, eat the orange. Because there is a proof that, just drinking the juice is like drinking sugar, because you don't have the pulp and you don't have the fiber that really creates a different reaction in your body. She would eat 1 egg every day. She would eat red meat once a week. She was a big proponent of black-eyed peas, cornbread, and sweet potatoes.
Cornbread.
Definitely a Georgia girl through and through. But I remember many times, she would hand bags of dried black-eyed peas to people who brought in their sick kids. And she didn't take insurance. She was a one-woman revolution in this state. She was a suffragette. She helped develop the polio vaccine. She was the second woman to graduate medical school in the state of Georgia. And I learned a lot from her because, I came to her anytime there was something wrong. I remember once my sister had this, it looked like a cyst or a bulge on the eyelid. She was only about 2 years old. We took her to the modern doctors and they said, she's going to have surgery and a procedure, Took her to Dr. Denmark and she said, don't worry about it. It's going to go away. And guess what? It did. And their attitude that I remember these modern doctors having when you would say that Dr. Denmark said something and they'd say, oh, that old woman. Wow. Well, that old woman practiced medicine until she was 102.
Wow.
And her eyesight started going.
Did she write a book?
Yes.
Can you tell us where that is? Because I'd really like to read that.
Every Child Deserves a Chance. I have a copy of it, but I'm not sure how easy it is to find. I don't know how easy it is to get in production, but it's very common sense, childcare, common sense, things that people just don't do anymore. And, she's definitely a hero of mine. I mean, she was just as honest and straightforward and loved her job. That was what she said. Everything in life is work or play. And if you do something you love, everything's play. You'll never work a day in your life.
Well, I've actually got one here that this was suggested to us, and I haven't even cracked it yet. But this one's How Not to Die.
Oh, that's a great sounding book.
It's basically, it says discover the food scientifically proven, prevent, reverse, blah, blah, But, you got to understand, I've made decisions in my life I know that are going to trim a lot of my life. I'll tell you this is like the story of my voice. It ain't just cigarettes. I took a job in 1992, 93, because that was when my daughter was born. I took a job, it was a toxic waste abatement job in Marcus Hook, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And basically what we were doing was we were building a channel because they had gotten caught dumping crap into the Delaware River. And so we were digging like a trench through there that would go through sumps and get cleaned up. But when you got to understand, this place was like, they caught the place on fire one day because they were burning off the sheet piling, like the metal corrugated stuff they knocked into the ground. They were burning the tops off of that, and they caught the dirt on fire.
Oh.
And the apprentice, you had to have like a fire extinguisher and stuff, but you also have to have a loaded hose. And he hit it with the hose, but it spread the foam on the big pond, and it blew up in flames. That was like far away and didn't really. It was more scary than anything else. But the digging, we would be working in a trench, and they would be digging just down from us. And basically, they made sure that you didn't have to, you had to be trained. You had to have your toxic waste garden stuff to work in there. And if you needed to be fully suited up and crap, they know that especially in Philadelphia summer, they'd have to give you breaks and stuff.
Right.
So they ain't gonna, the people that they hired to test things aren't gonna be real jumping to prove that we shouldn't be down there kind of stuff. So basically, it was like right before Easter, or Easter or Christmas, maybe, I don't know. We had days off. All I remember was just like a holiday dinner, and we had ham, and I was looking forward to it. And I couldn't eat the ham because my throat was just sore as hell.
Oh.
So basically, long story short, I walked around for like 2 years. My voice was like this. I was like whispering. So I've gained a lot of voice back, but so that's the story of my voice.
It almost reminds me a little bit of what happened to the first responders during 9/11 when they were breathing in all the toxic air, and they had a lot of them permanent damage to their breathing and their vocal cords and all of that.
It wasn't just toxic; it had microfibers in it from all these.
Yeah, I mean it was
asbestos.
I was in a toxicology class when that happened, and we spent a few days going over what we call vectors, the means that people would be killed from the. We actually had a test on what we had to predict would be the causes of death by the distribution of the population in the area, and it did not look good. The shock wave of the tower collapsing. Have you ever slammed two pieces of wood together and this big wind comes out of it? It's like an accordion, bellows. That's basically what happened to the building. They're still finding skeletons a mile away that pumped down the sewers.
Wow.
Most of the bone fragments that they're encountering, a lot of them are almost the size of sand now. They got broken up so much in the impacts and whatever. And basically, people would be blown down a small 4-inch pipe, and you don't think of that as being possible. We duplicated the impact of the metal with a hot dog, and I mean, we pulled back nothing but grease.
Yeah, I remember hearing some pretty gruesome details.
Yes, I mean, you don't find anything there. I mean, it's just totally dissociated. Like I said, a hot dog became a clear grease. This was, I think, 4 megapascals. What they said it was, and maybe it was 4 gigapascals. I always have problems with the metric system. But I had I had this machine where we could accelerate a large hammer to Mach 2 in about 18 inches, and so we were able to duplicate quite a bit of force. And we had somebody from some university come in and do some testing on various things. There wasn't a lot of facilities like that.
This might be slightly off topic, but it makes me think of something. I don't, as an agnostic / atheist, I guess I'm really more agnostic. I kind of don't understand our culture's obsession with needing to find all of the, I mean, I'm sorry, but once you're gone, you're gone. I just don't you know what I mean? Like obviously they needed to identify people, but this is really gruesome, but we're on a gruesome topic here. When there's like an air crash over the ocean, why? I mean, I wouldn't want someone to expend all that time and money to go find me at the bottom of the sea. I mean, I think we as a culture, or I guess people need to have a grave, but I just don't really.
Ecologically, I object. I object to embalming. It's an unnecessary input into the environment of a toxic chemical.
I'm going to be even more cheery here. I just actually was present when my grandfather died, and I didn't know I had that in me, but I was there as he had this big booming voice, and he always sang. He was in theater and stuff. And I was with him the whole last like 10 days, and he took these two big breaths out, and then he was gone. But I knew like instantly that he was not there, and I just left the room. And I just don't feel like, what it's your body. Once you leave, you leave. So I think as a culture, we're kind of, I don't know. I guess people need a
No,
great
I completely agree there. This need to preserve is wrong to me. In fact, I think it should be as ecologically conservative as possible. And personally, the only thing that I really approve of is cremation by sunlight, like concentrated sunlight in the desert.
Has anyone heard of the mushroom death suit?
No.
What?
Nope.
It's
Is
a real
it like
thing.
the green burial kind of thing?
Yeah, because the trouble with human bodies is most of us accumulate so much toxicity. You really can't just throw. That's why they won't allow you to just throw a human body in the ground and bury it normally. So there was a scientist developed a suit. They use mushrooms and they use fungus to actually clean up toxic waste and disasters to a degree, because it'll suck it up and absorb it and transmute it. And so, there's actually a thing called a mushroom death suit. So, if you want a natural burial, you can put your body in this mushroom fungus infused casket earth thing, and they bury you in it, and then it sucks up all the toxicity, and you can have a more natural burial without all the formaldehyde.
No, that's
Oh,
not bad.
man,
You know
man,
what?
I'm going this way. To put me in a coffee, put me in a coffee can and just spread me somewhere. That's good enough for me.
Modestly priced receptacle.
Yeah,
I love that movie so much.
You know what I'd like to do? I was thinking maybe I could be, what are those? I could be a table. Just take my bones and be a table for somebody and be useful.
There's artwork that gets dropped in the ocean.
You need to say goodbye. It's closure. Because I love my dad, and it's going to be hard when he goes. It will be. There's no doubt. It's going to break my heart.
There's a place that mixes ashes with cement and drops it in a garden in the ocean.
Wow.
I've seen ones where the ashes get mixed into a tree spike that becomes like a lawn fertilizer.
You can compress a body into a gemstone because of the carbon,
Okay, I gotta make a joke here. It's a Harlan thing. But I think he talks about golf courses and cemeteries in the same way. Like, we're taking a really valuable real estate here. Like, that's places we could build homes for the homeless and stuff.
I've been for a political action where we occupy golf courses. I think that would be I think that if we just did that nationwide, especially with Trump as president, it would be a kick in the ass.
One project I looked at in California was a farm that made its own water. And we were going to put it just off of Lancaster, California. We went out and we looked at in the Mojave Desert there. They were going to offer me 1 acre for my experiment if I built them a facility. The bottom layer of it was energy storage. The layer above that was working area. And above that was a growing area for vegetables to sell in Los Angeles. And the top layer was going to be solar panels, because you only need about 1/10 of the energy from light to actually grow plants. Most of it they can't use. So we would duplicate frequencies that the plants need with LEDs and use the rest to run the facility and the water generators. And we thought we could employ a lot of unemployable people and deliver food to a food desert and make a second unit in in this area in Los Angeles where there's like almost no grocery stores, where we would take in milk bottles and use milk bottles, melt them down into in what's called blow molding, and form them into housing interiors to put into shipping containers to build little cities for homeless people or out of work, not whatever, but to put people to work and recovering all kinds of recyclables that are currently thrown away. And again, making their own water, making their own food, that basically could be a recovery effort for the area. And
Yeah, there's so much that can be done, but I think the key is really, I mean, keeping kids interested in science early on, keep it holding that interest. And I think I saw over in the chat a little bit ago, I think it was Jenny Lynn saying, so many schools aren't doing that. So you got to do it on your own. But like I said before, so many parents, both parents are working or they just don't have the time. And, if you can't, I mean, if you can afford summer camps, those are great. We have a lot of those around here, but which my younger daughter goes to, but like she's doing a food science camp at the end of the month. But when our older daughter was her age, we just didn't have the money to shell out $200-300 for a science camp. So I think there's so much burden on regular people to make up for where a lot of our schools are lacking.
Well, a lot of places can't afford teachers of the caliber they need.
Right, exactly.
Out here, what do you pay for a pound of hamburger there?
I don't eat red meat. So.
Don't eat red meat. What do you pay for a pound of chicken breasts?
Probably like $6.
$6 a pound?
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
A boneless chicken breast here, $1.69 a pound. Big chicken breasts.
Yeah.
We have cheap chicken in Georgia. We have a lot of chicken here.
I'm not even talking about organic. I'm just thinking like regular Harris Teeter. $5.99, I believe. Breast, chicken breast.
No, I mean, I'm trying to say how cheap the living cost is out here.
Oh, okay.
I don't get it in a package. You go there and the butcher prepares it right in front of you.
Where are you?
Old Wine, Iowa.
Oh, okay.
And so a teacher here, you can get a good teacher here with the amount of money that's available from the feds, where, I believe you on your cost of your chicken. And, for you to get the same federal funding as what we get, your teachers would have to go out and get another job.
Right, exactly.
My cousin is a principal at one of the neighboring towns, and he asked me to come and give a speech because of what my background was to his STEM students. And I found that they had a robot class, and they wanted me to give a talk to that. Then afterwards, they said, "Would you stay for the science and math classes?" We brought them in, and then they had me basically stay there and give the same talk several times throughout the day of technologies that I thought would be important in their lifetimes. And afterwards, at the first one with the robotics class, which probably was, their most advanced students, I would say, technical wise, I put a problem on the board for them that was a math problem for grad students in computer math, or maybe a senior in comp sci. And it's binary subtraction uses something called two's complement math. And I put a question up there, and the kids were able to identify it, name it, and I do the problem.
Wow.
And these were seniors, high school. But I still thought, okay, these kids are not lacking. And I really feel it's the cost of living for them. I mean, let's say in Los Angeles, that area, to buy a nice house is $1 million at least, I believe. A similar house in the town that he works and lives in would be about 29 to 30, maybe $60,000.
Wow.
The house beside us, I believe, is going It's a 3-bedroom house. It's got a walk-in basement, a nice yard, and it is going for $50,000.
Wow.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah, everything's out of whack. I mean, you look at what your mortgage cost is on a $300,000-$400,000 house. Yeah, I don't know how teachers get by, and I don't know. It's definitely out of whack.
Because Ariel brought up this we in the chat, Ariel and I were just talking about Irish people in Ireland or whatever, So
I'm Irish.
Is this
Well,
about?
I was
Hungarian, but you can say whatever.
I was in a Philly in an Irish Philly local, and I wasn't Irish, but I hung out and drank with those guys. We would have rain days. We would go in there. We would show up at work. We'd get a hour show up time, and then we'd go to the bar at 7:30 in the morning. And I'd sit there with these guys, and there's nobody funnier than these guys. But we're sitting in there one day, and it's a rundown area, and this guy comes in, this homeless guy, and he was asking somebody for some cash. The bartender freaks out on him, and the biggest guy at the bar, because the whole bar is nothing but us, and the biggest guy at the bar is our shop steward. And he walked down the bar and just scrambled all the money off the bar, walked over and handed it to the guy and said, but for the least to me. And that is, when I think of Christianity and people that have faith, that's the kind of people I think of, and so
Yeah.
I try as best I can to never punch down and always punch up, because whoever is above us is the one holding us down,
When I go to different countries, and I go to factories, I'm not talking about tourist places. I see the places tourists don't go into the factories and see how people are working. If I compare U.S., Denmark, and Mexico factories that I've been in, in the Denmark factories, the one I went to was Lego, and at Lego, even the president had to eat off of the floor to prove that that place was clean enough that children could pick up a Lego and put it in their mouth. So every month, people are picked at random, and right before I got there, the president had gotten picked, and they just randomly pick a spot somewhere in the factory and eat off the floor. And that's how much trust they have in their fellow employees that they've cleaned the floor. They're all basically happy. They're not like singing songs and stuff while they work, but every single one of them was happy, courteous, and ready to work with me when I got there. In Mexico, my boss's mother was from Spain, and he spoke Spanish fluently. And we were pulled aside and asked not to speak Spanish in their facility because we spoke Castilian Spanish, and it is insulting to Mexicans. And but when we were in a Mexican facility, they were poorly paid. Most of them had less than a second grade education, and the treatment of them was horrible. And it is a completely different feeling being amongst everybody, where you know that everybody in that factory is getting treated worse than you, than being in a factory where you know everybody is being treated the same as you. And it is not comfortable being in a factory for me in Mexico. And I've been in multiple factories in Mexico, and it's the same in every one. Whoever is the supervisor is God, and they treat everybody else like demons. Everybody that's below you in a Mexican facility, I swear, every single one of them calls their employees idiots to their face in front of all their friends. In Denmark, it's Haley, whatever. And although the president wasn't, like I'd say, like gregarious with the employees on the floor, when he was walking with me, people weren't jumping out of his way or anything. When we were in the research lab, every single one of the technicians was treated with respect. The president of the company was extremely proud of the color master for the Legos. Make sure that they're all identical, it was just so different. It's impossible, and when in China, we were not allowed to say the word reject, defect. One time, the word defective was used in a conversation, and the employee was never seen again.
It's interesting that you bring this up because of our discussion last night about Fukushima, and that's actually true, that it's almost seen as a point of shame to bring up anything that's disasters or a crisis or any kind of problem, because there is a sense of pride that runs really deep in Japanese culture and kind of keeping up polite. It's seen as not polite to bring it up.
Well, in China, in China, my boss was said if we mentioned the word defect, they would kill our agent on the other end.
Right. Yeah.
And it happened. I mean, we don't know about the death. We just know that they disappear.
Yeah.
Whenever we had a problem, we were required to state it in such a way that we were not blaming them. They call it glass heart. And that's our American word for it. But let's say that they put 2 red wires on something that we said had. They have 1 white wire and 1 red wire. We would have to apologize when we told them that was done wrong. We'd have to say, we're sorry we did not explain well enough that we wanted the white wire to be white and not red too.
Well, and the thing that there's a push for this right now. Like, all right, check us out. I don't know how many of you know right now that 2 activists, labor activists, are in custody or have disappeared. One is known to be in custody, and they're charging them with, I don't know, like filming, spying, some odd crap. And the other one nobody's seen, but basically they were reporting on Ivanka's brands, and I think like the Kardashians, but they were doing labor activism in China, and they're doing labor activism in China, doing labor activism in Mexico or Colombia. In Colombia especially, we've turned it into a sort of third world factory.
Yeah, there's countries I can't go to.
and basically in America, you have to understand, like, I started my apprenticeship, and we would have like 6 guys on a crew, on a small crew. We'd have 6 guys. One of them be an old guy. He'd run the saw table, cut things, and that's how you took care of the old guy. And he'd have an apprentice, and he'd train the apprentice. And then you had all the younger guys would do the harder work, and then a foreman or a lead man. And so, but all that changed. The foreman used to never wear his tools because he was too busy sort of getting work set up, so things went very smoothly and more safely. And so now what we've done, especially, I don't know if Redneck can talk about this, but we've taken people that used to get a lot more done. We used to use more people to get things done. Now we're using less. And what it is that's where I got the broken carpenter thing. It's just once you're broken, they don't need you anymore. They hire a new one. Mm-hmm. And so, and that's sort of a line out of the movie Mate One, but it's true. You're only good to them as long as you can work. And trust me, I thought when I had my first surgery and they took out the 3 discs, I was still of the idea that I was going to get to go back to work. So I was getting all psyched for when I was ready to go, because I like doing my job, but the doctor and my wife sort of looked at me and said, "No, you can't be a carpenter anymore." So that was different, and all of a sudden, but it's, I don't know, lost my train of thought there, but you know what I'm saying. This is something I wanted to ask Redneck if they noticed that in West Virginia, and that's where all these people on opiates are coming from, because you got blue collar workers, so you got working class people that are doing more work with less people, and there's only one. There's sort of a triangle. There's production, there's safety, and then there's manpower, and you cut down on any of that and you start freaking out the what should be an equal triangle. And so I just wanted to know her opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like I saw this. Well, it was like a small documentary, like 20 minutes maybe, on YouTube. I think it's called "Rich Land, Poor People," but it was back in the 50s or 60s, and they were talking about, it was filming the life here in West Virginia, and in Appalachia, and that's what this guy said. People don't need people anymore, and they just shift us around from town to town. Like, we lose our work here, so then you go to Michigan, because you hear that they've got these new plants open. You go up there, and then they lay you off from there, and then you got to go back to this other place, and it's just nobody wants the people anymore. They want your business, they want your money, but they don't want the people. And there's just such a huge problem. I mean, and that's why they've got so many broken families here. I mean, you've got kids that if they want anything for themselves, they have to leave the state, and then meanwhile, all the jobs. I mean, there's no jobs there. I mean, it's just and a lot of these people work in the mines, and then it's like, what do you do after that? That's what they've done like their whole lives, and it's sad because and plus here they also put a lot of importance on it, because I mean, like, if you hear them talk about coal miners, they talk about them like they were veterans. I mean, that's the kind of pride here, because it's so dangerous, and and so then they just throw them back like, okay, well, you take this job that you had so much pride in, and now you have to get yelled at as a cashier in Walmart for shit money, and then you have to have like where's all that meaning go? And people get depressed, and you're probably injured from working in the mines anyway, so you probably have some opiates laying around, and so many people fall into this. It's just it's a problem that is definitely a part of it, but it's so bad here that you pretty much have to be on drugs to live here.
Yes.
And you lose a sense. You have to, like, when that day that I found out I couldn't be a carpenter anymore. I mean, that's like heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very tough thing to give up. That was my identity, man. That's who I was. And so it's really hard to look at it and say, to be dispassionate about it. You just sort of lost half your identity. And especially doing, like you say, the miners were that way. We work on buildings, and you work on high buildings and bridges and crap. It's exciting. It's like X Games every day if you like your job. You're just hanging off the side of it. Hanging up on the side of a building, and at that moment you're doing something that not everybody can do, and it's not matter. Go ahead.
Well, and it's something that you can look at your work, and when you're at the end of the day, you can say, "Hey, you see what I just did?" And and these other jobs that they're sending us to is, you're making stuff all day to send somewhere that you never see, or you don't have anything to show for it at all. Like, if you're a cashier, it's just like, well, here's what I get to take home, nothing. You have nothing to show for your work.
And Stevie, I had my ex-husband was from West Virginia. He grew up there his whole life, and he said that there's this real unusual attitude there that a lot of people have towards those who, it's almost like what you find in Indian reservations, where if somebody decides they want to leave the state, or they want to just go somewhere and do better and make a better life for themselves, it's like people have this attitude towards them, like like they hate them or they're angry at them for wanting to do, like they think they're better than everyone else. It's very strange. He said it's sort of like they'll kind of put you down for not wanting to stay in West Virginia and do that kind of life and struggle at the Walmart or struggle in a mine, and it's like this, who do you think you are, some big shot? And there's almost like a pride in being ignorant or being uneducated.
Yeah, well,
I don't know
the
if
people that are educated and the people that, have money and stuff like that, like, they treat us like shit. I mean, that's why. It's because there's this elitist mentality, and they just look at us like we're like Hillary Clinton, for instance. She came here. Oh my gosh, the actual, like, it was almost like a physical hatred for this woman here, and it wasn't just about the coal mining jobs. That was a big part of it, but it was we knew she thought of us as lesser than.
Sure.
We're not stupid, and she could say all the nice words in the world. It doesn't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and so we've rebelled against that in a lot of ways by, saying, screw education. Yeah, who needs that? And you get angry at the thing that you can't have too.
Of course, definitely.
Well, it's like I can't afford college, and I'll never get a job in that, so I might as well hate it, so that way I don't feel sad.
Yeah, bringing up Hillary again, something I was talking about today with a friend was that, we got into the Fukushima yesterday, and now we're trying to talk about food and nutrition and health. And that while Hillary was Secretary of State, right after Fukushima, she actually was integral to getting the allowable amount of radioactivity in our food dropped. So we actually will allow more radioactivity in our food now so that we can still do trade with Japan.
Oh,
Isn't that great?
Monsanto, just a couple of years ago, they had to pay a huge lawsuit because they accidentally poisoned the people of the town with Agent Orange.
Wow.
And this was just a couple of years
What?
ago. And I'm just now finding out about it. Guess what? I live 5 minutes down the road. My child goes to a school down there.
Oh,
and
word.
I'm just now finding out about this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what?
It's like, oops, we just
How does this
didn't
happen?
tell you.
How does this happen? I mean, like that chemical leak that we had a few years back where 300,000 people went without water, they still use that chemical. They still haven't tested it. And it's still getting leaked into the river. It's just, you might see a news article on it online on some obscure newspaper, site, like 5 months after the fact. And you're like, well, I was poisoned. I drank that water. That's cool. That's
Nobody
part of me
tells
now.
you when it's actually
It's crazy
happening.
what they get by with.
Yeah. Something I wanted to bring up is this book. I mentioned it yesterday. This was my awakening. When I was about 11 years old, I read this book, and it certainly changed my life forever. It was sort of my moment that I woke up. I woke up very young. But John Robbins, this is actually a new edition of it. But he was being groomed by the Baskin-Robbins family. His dad, they owned the place, and he was supposed to take it over when he got to be an adult, right? I'm just gonna keep this up. But he decided not to do it because of all of his knowledge of the way that health and nutrition go into your body and the things that animal agriculture does. I mean, he grew up with an ice cream cone shaped swimming pool in his backyard. He was supposed to inherit incredible wealth, and he turned it all down because he knew what it was all about. So this book gets into factory farming. It's got a lot of disturbing pictures, and what it does to our bodies and what it does to the earth. And yeah, animal agriculture is one of the most damaging things, but I would recommend this to anybody. It's something that definitely changed the way I see everything. I mean, as ecology, our role in the world and our role with animals and all of that. And something as I was looking through this last night, just, kind of skimming it again, that really blew my mind. He has a chapter where he has part of a letter from Chief Seattle, to Washington. And it's so wild that just look at I'll read a little passage from it. And he talks about the verse in Ecclesiastes in the Bible, which Chief Seattle had probably never read. So that one says, "For that which befalls the sons of men befalls the beast. Even one befalls them, so one dies, and so the other dies. They all have one breath, so that a man has no preeminence above a beast." That's from the Bible. And so then Chief Seattle, who had obviously never come across that, but he wrote a very similar thing. It's the one thing we know. God is the same. This earth is precious. This we know. The earth does not belong to man. Man belongs to the earth. All things are connected, like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of the earth. He does not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. It's as simple as that.
The problem I found, my kids were in a pretty small charter school, and there seemed to be some interest in starting a school garden and stuff like that. I don't know if anybody's heard of, I think it's Alice Waters, the Edible Schoolyard. Maybe somebody in the chat's probably heard of that. I think she has a restaurant in California that's like all organic. So I was kind of trying to go off that. And so we held this meeting and like one other person comes. So I just met with so much, and this was a group of like a lot of stay-at-home moms, people that had the time and effort to put into this, but there was so much resistance against it, like I actually brought it, well, they were doing a jump rope for heart event, like a health event at the school. And this one woman that was like in charge of the PE stuff, she's like, I need all the parents to bring big jugs of Gatorade. We're talking about for 5-year-olds.
Oh my
Jeez.
And I'm like, okay, here's a 5-year-old, and here's a big jug of Gatorade. I think they can have water, but I just found like there's so much resistance against it.
Yeah.
Like we ended up on field day, a couple of parents, like I ended up getting like, I think 3 or 4 other parents, and we just brought, because we couldn't get anybody to really listen to us, so we just brought in our own table, and we brought in healthy food, because they were just having hamburgers and hot dogs on white bread and just soda and just crap. And my daughter's like, I don't have anything to eat on field day. So it started from a couple of us. One was a nutritionist, and we had this great spread of food, and a lot of kids came up and ate stuff, and we just look over and all these other women are just glaring at us like,
wow.
So when you meet with that kind of resistance from people, just you're trying to do something positive, I don't know. It was incredibly frustrating. So
I would
not at that school anymore.
And then, like, on top of that, it's just like, well, are you trying to say, like, you're a better parent? Like it points out, like, how bad it is, the thing that they're doing.
I know.
And it's just...
There's no way to do it where they don't feel that way, It's...
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Today was...
Well, I mean, we lived on my income for for all of that 20 years, because my wife got pregnant with her first kid, and she was working as a carpenter, and she worked till she was 7 months pregnant, and then she says, "Man, I got at Christmas time." She says, "I got to ask for a layoff." And I said, "Oh man, finally!" And she goes, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" I said, "If I told you, you'd get mad at me." So it was, but anyhow, after that, we were sort of like to the John Prine tune, blowing up your TV, playing a little garden. We bought a little plot of land up in Washington State, just north of Portland. I actually lived in the back of my truck for a year in the Portland area while I worked on building a steel mill there. And I got hooked into this town and stuff and loved it. So I moved up to Battleground, Washington, if people know that. and we had 50 goats and a little garden, and when times were tough, we ate some goats, and we had rabbits and the whole gig. And now I want to do just one little dad brag. You were talking about STEM. So we homeschooled till they were in middle school, and not for like religious reasons. More like I didn't want them indoctrinated in the system. That was my thinking, and my wife, they were just both really smart. And so now my daughter is interning for one of the large tech companies. And she's like wowing them, and it makes me feel really good because she's always been like super smart, and I just had to do a dad brag because I don't get to do that very often.
That's awesome. I'm glad you brag on her for that. In Asheville, there's a lot of that, and you do have that sort of split with people that homeschool. You've got the religious, right, especially in the South. They don't want their kids to go to school for it's religious. And then you do have, I'll just call it the hippie element, which I have some of in me. But yeah, would homeschool for those other reasons, and kids learn how to, go out to the chicken coop and get eggs in the morning. I think that's awesome. I think it's
my daughter did the eggs. My son had a milk goat. And so we had goat milk and eggs from the chickens. Chickens, wow. I wish I could have them, man. You feed them your food garbage, and they crap out eggs. They're the greatest animals in the world.
That's amazing.
So what do your kids do now? Do you feel like they carried that with them, those lessons? I mean.
Oh yeah. I mean, they both have an ability to one of the things was like we were freaked out because one of the things when you homeschool, there's no grade system. Nobody's there telling you, well, your child got an A in science or whatever. So we hired a teacher, one of the local public school teachers. She came and administered this test, and they both did great, but at one point in the test, and one of the things about this woman was she understood like homeschool learning. So she asks my son a question, and my son says, "Oh, just a second." He walks across the room and picks up like an almanac, please, which is like used to be a receptacle of knowledge back in when we didn't have the internet. And it just amazed her, that he knew exactly how to go about it. So anyhow, my daughter's, like I say, she's been, she did the ACT, she scored perfect in the ACT and her SATs. Is that right? I can't remember. It was like some kind of, it was a great accomplishment, but I can't remember it. It's just like I couldn't tell you what she does other than it's some kind of dealing with big data.
I did homeschool too, and it wasn't really like a religious thing. I just really did not like being in public or private schools, either one. I didn't enjoy it. And as a result, I got to learn to play the harp. I got to learn to study Irish Gaelic as a language. I got to do all these cool things I never would have been able to do in a regular school. And it's funny because in hindsight, the trend of the Montessori schools, that's really what it was like. Having my mom do things with me was very much like that. And it was so good. It's like I really feel like I became a whole human being rather than just getting pummeled with other kids bullying me and putting me down for being weird, because I always was.
Yeah, my daughter said today she has a crap barrier around her from all that school.
That's good. Put a bubble up.
But I guess Brian dropped off. He wasn't saying much. I was about to kind of try to pull him in the conversation, but
yeah, let's see.
Anyway. And Eric, you're not very chatty.
No, I'm just listening.
You're just listening? Okay.
Well, I was waiting.
Do you want to add anything to the food topic, or I don't know.
Anything but food. Well, I don't really, eat any junk though, really. Every now and then, of course.
Yeah.
But, I always stay away from that.
My grandfather was 95 and he still smoked. It's terrible. And he was like the grumpy old man, like I eat bacon for breakfast and bacon for lunch and I drink my dinner, but he drank red wine. So that was, I guess, better for him. But I guess my grandma always had fresh veggies, but you can do so much, but some of it is just genetics. And I believe, willpower too.
Oh, I have a strong willpower.
Yeah,
I think the thing that's interesting too about nutrition for me, one of the big issues are the fact that our soil was declared depleted. I believe it was 1937, something around that year, that it was declared that the soil was depleted of the complete spectrum of minerals. So my mom will talk about how when she was a kid, she never had to take vitamin supplements or minerals or any of this stuff. You got your stuff from the food. It was in the food. You didn't have to, if you were eating a good diet, you didn't have to take all these vitamins. Now everybody, that wants to kind of maintain their health does that. So yeah, that's.
I know around here anemia is like huge. Like
anemia is massive.
I had to take vitamins. My oldest has to take a vitamin. I mean, it's just chronic. I don't know if it has to do with the. I think I saw something about like pollution, like where there's something to do with the coal mining pollution.
Yeah, toxicity in the environment is a big contributor. I mean, we have more to contend with now than we ever have. And then on top of it, you have the genetically modified foods. So, the wheat that we eat now is not the same as the wheat that our grandparents had. It just isn't. They modified it through the 60s and the 70s. And so now we really have this Frankenstein wheat. And even if it's organic, it doesn't matter. It's an organic version of that wonderful genetically modified crap. And so guess what goes up? Celiac disease. Everybody's got gluten intolerance. All these problems go up. It's
I actually have celiac. Not just sensitivity, but my daughter and I both have celiac. But I have read that though, that there's some theory that it might just be all the different versions are modified. But anyway,
not the same as it was. Yeah.
Well, you're talking about the Japanese wheat costs.
Yes.
There's a lot of evidence to support that's at least part of the issue.
Yes, it is.
The other part of the issue is the issue with gut fauna and flora, as I believe the way the doctor called it. And in the United States, we do not filter the milk for avian avian. Oh, actually, I got it backwards. It's paratuberculosis avians.
Easy for you to say.
Sorry. Yeah, that wasn't easy for me to say.
Say that 5 times as fast as you can.
Well, when we're talking in discussions, normally she abbreviates it. In Europe, they don't have as many problems with celiacs from the second variety of wheat that is very common there, but also because without the irritation of the stomach lining by exposure to this organism, you have more resistance to be able to handle some wheat.
Is it like four row versus 2 row?
I don't know that one.
No, there's 4 rows. There's 4 row wheat and there's 2 row, or barley comes that way, and I think wheat has also had. I don't know. They got.
Probiotics every day. Every day, probiotics.
Japanese wheat is shorter, and it's like a natural version of BT or something that's in there. There's DNA actually works like, if you ever played the video game. What's it called? Where a bunch of puzzle pieces fall and you've got to fit them together as
Tetris.
Tetris, yes. DNA is just like Tetris. There's basically 4 different sequences of things that can combine with mirror images of themselves. And when chemicals form, their electrostatic forces force the different positions of the atoms into certain places. And it's just like little Tetris pieces. So only the right Tetris piece forms. And when it does, that portion of the DNA replicates. So
and it changes.
So when you change the wheat, you change that Tetris piece. And it can activate something else to cause the irritation. Or it can hang and not come loose at the right time because what else was there that we evolved to handle is no longer able to handle that extra piece of the Tetris piece.
Correct.
Were you talking about genetics? I wanted to do like that Ancestry.com thing, just out of curiosity. And so I just here recently, now they're dealing with like selling your DNA or selling your genetics. And I'm not so hip to that idea. I mean, I got to find some foolproof place to get that done, man.
Yeah.
But
was your hair reddish before it went gray?
No. Oh, my facial hair?
Yeah.
My facial hair was like blondish. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it could be wouldn't say red, but blonde.
Did you have a problem with wheat too?
Nah, not that I know of. I mean, there are some people that eat like a Maserati, and some people that sort of eat like a '64 Chevy. And that's me. I mean, I eat garbage, and except for I have to say this: I make, especially when I was healthier, we had foods that I made. I made foods. I'd come home from work and make food. We had real, like I make pizza. We make things. We make bread sometimes with, whatever. But food that was actually like, the eggs came from the field and, the wheat, everything. I don't know. Everybody seems to have dealt with it quite well. So I don't know.
The reason I ask, a lot of people with reddish hair have a problem with wheat.
Now, I wouldn't say reddish, more blonde. It was sort of like I had dark hair and a blonde beard.
It's hard to tell on the camera.
Yeah, well, it's great. Trust me, everything's gray now. It's just like it's very gray. It's very gray now.
Is Stevie still here?
Yeah, I'm on here.
Oh, you're just off camera. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. What are you guys talking about now? Still on food or?
Kind of talking about genetics and how sometimes, it's the change of your genetic structure that can't keep up with the changes to the food structure. And so I take probiotics every day. I mean, that's something that definitely helps digestion. And as you get older, your body produces less of that as well.
Sorry, I had to go. I have to remember to stay hydrated.
Oh yeah.
Spinal fluid. So I'm like, I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna get up and leave to get my tea periodically, like I didn't do that other night, because I have to constantly have fluids. But I was thinking while I was gone.
This is
something you said
right here. It's free.
Right. That you said, Stevie, about talking about things being viewed as like elitist. Like I was thinking about that, the example I gave about field day when we brought in our own food and I don't know. I would never. This was in a pretty well-to-do area, I guess. So, like, I would never do that with people that can't afford better food. So, the people I'm talking about that were so resistant to it are perfectly capable of like affording better food. So it's like there's just so much resistance to it. You know, and you heard even when like Michelle Obama was trying to change the school lunches, that the kids were like, what is this crap? They're throwing, you know, a salad bar, they're throwing it in the trash. They're like, where are my tater tots? But I don't know, I guess
like when
there's
I
a
was in
middle
high
ground.
school and middle school, I think. Yeah, it was in middle school too. They had vending machines with these, you know, you could buy like Surge pop out. I mean, it was just pop and like junk food in our schools, selling it to kids. And like when they got rid of those, people were pissed, actually pissed off that it. And I'm like, when I was in school, like I never really did it because I could never afford it. But like, I mean, I can understand because it's like it felt normal back then. Like I didn't question it back then. I mean, it was just like normal. But then like now, it's just like holy shit, they did that.
Well, I think you have to reach. It starts very young. I mean, if you try to change the diet, like even at middle school, it's probably too late. But it's hi, Yvonne.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. I was just had a lot of stuff going on, but now I could join in. One thing that like my wife, she didn't like fish because of the fishy taste, and I actually know someone else that didn't like fish because of that fishy taste. And the thing is, when you fish and you kill them properly, put them on ice, you don't get that fishy taste, and they actually like the taste of fish. And it's something that now when things are getting more commercialized, you know, the way that they die is usually the fish suffocate, and then they're iced. They're sent somewhere where they're either filleted or gutted, and they're iced again, shipped somewhere else, and then they're sold at different places. And all this time that, you know, all the thawing and re-icing, it just gets that, you know, the fishy taste you'll start being able to taste it in your food. And not only that, it's the whole farmed part of fishing. Also, what they're eating isn't natural. It's just a whole bunch of stuff rolled into one. They just toss it in there. And like usually the fish that are stocked in lakes and ponds, they actually taste better once they live in there after like a year, just because they're eating just natural food. And I think a lot of people just kind of don't realize it. But then the problem is there's so many people out there, it's not like they can go out and go fishing after working 50, 60-hour days.
Right. Yeah, my husband makes jokes about the big giant bags of shrimp, you know, that he's like, I think these come from somebody's little swimming pool in the backyard. You know. But I mean, yeah, you wonder, you know, but yeah, people don't have time to do that. But Stevie, I
need a slow revolution. Everybody needs to slow down. Just slow down and think about what they're doing, what they're eating.
It's about mindfulness, you know. Like once you actually like are present and you think about your actions and like, you know, the consequences of it. It's just like, you know, it like that's really the only way that I can even like, I don't know.
Versus just
I don't know how to explain it exactly.
Instead of eating in front of the television.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
My husband was raised.
Our bodies are on autopilot, and we just go through all these motions and do things without really thinking about why or if there's a better way of doing it.
And that relates to so many things, not just food. It's everything. Jenny Lynn is talking about raw apple cider vinegar being another wonderful product for health. And,
it is.
The funny thing is people say it's too expensive to eat healthy, but really if you're not buying prepared or processed foods, it gets cheap. It gets cheaper and cheaper than you can imagine, especially if you live near a farmer's market or somewhere that you can go like that. When I lived in Oregon, oh my word, I used to play music at the farmers markets, and I'm telling you that half the time at the end of the day they'd send me home with like crates of blueberries, and it was just incredible. And I know Eric's making yummy noises now.
Hey, in,
yeah.
in Vancouver, Washington, at that farmer's market, they would give you double credit on your food stamps.
Mm.
Awesome.
So people would come in there, they would get good, fresh food, you know?
Yep.
And community service agriculture, is that what it is? CSA farms is, if you, I mean, it's kind of pricey, but like once a week you can buy. They have a whole bunch of fruits and sometimes vegetables. You could go out there and pick every once in a while. So I mean, it's a lot of vegetables at once, but you can share it, right? You can split the price between two families or maybe three families, which can be enough, and it ends up being pretty cheap. And it's how it's farmed and all this other stuff.
Eating healthy is less expensive than a lot of people know or really understand. I spend so little on grocery and I eat so healthy, and people can never believe how I do it. But it's because I'm not buying a bunch of processed food.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. You're not buying snack foods. Those are the most expensive foods out there. Go buy a bunch of celery, a bag of carrots, things like that. I mean, it's nothing compared to what, I'll stand and behind somebody in front of me and it looks like they've got the same amount of food. They're paying over $100 and I'm back there $20-$30 and it's all greens and, really good stuff. And I'm like, wow, man.
And
it's hard
I can go for some celery sticks, some peanut butter, and some raisins.
Oh yeah.
Right now.
The towns around here are losing all their stores to Amazon, or they'll drive 30 miles, 50 miles to go to Walmart.
Wow.
So there's all these empty storefronts. One of the nearby towns here is experimenting with growing shrimp in the vacated buildings. And apparently it's good quality, and the freezing shipping processes means that we would never get fresh shrimp here. And so it's totally new, totally wild that in this area, our restaurants are getting fresh shrimp.
Yeah. And to make things taste better, you can easily grow your own herbs inside to add flavor, and they're actually good for you too. Yeah. And if you really have to, and butter's still good for you because it's got a lot of good stuff. But what people don't know about is you leave the butter in the frying pan for a little bit longer till it browns. You get browned butter, and that just gives you a nutty flavor for vegetables. So if you like a nuttier flavor for any types of things that you cook, just fry it with brown butter.
For me, garlic, ginger root, lemon, vinegar, these are all cheap flavorings that are all good for you, and they are amazing.
I love garlic.
Yeah. Oh, me too.
I think if you look at the sort of the history of our country and how things changed into what they are now with our food, is when you had both parents have to go into the workforce, and it became all about quick and easy.
Yes.
Convenience.
The convenient foods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. TV dinners.
Another like if you watch an ad today, they don't tell you about how good the food is or how healthy the food is.
No.
They advertise it on the size of it, like, oh, look at this big burger. Like, what? Well, but that doesn't tell me anything about what the burger is. Like, is it good? Is there? I mean, like, but that's the thing. Like, it's like big, easy, quick. You know.
Yeah.
And you were talking about food deserts.
For capitalism.
You were talking about food deserts, and you have them in an urban area. Like we lived in Chester, Pennsylvania, when we first got married and had kids, and there it was. You had for us, we had you had to drive to get to the store, and the closest real supermarket was had the quality was less quality than the same brand of supermarket in a richer area. And the people that couldn't get to drive the car, they either had to ride the bus over and then bring all their kids and their groceries on the bus and ride back, or go down to the convenience store, or the little market, and that's where they bought their food. And you can't buy quality things at a little store unless you live in an area where that kind of like a almost an agrarian sort of system is already set up, where there's people that are growing locally and they bring them in and they got little markets, like mercados or whatever. I've seen places like that, but it's not.
What's
You know
a
what I mean?
very little animal?
So Snork, I
Snork,
think
what
you're
is
showing
that?
us the ugly animal that fights cancer, right?
Sure. I'm sorry. I'm just putting that up there. This is Paul.
Is that a ferret?
It's a possum.
Oh, cool.
My work area is right here.
It's the back of the
There's
ear. Okay.
chest level. The ground's chest level here, and I throw him out peanuts at night.
Aw.
When he sees the peanuts, I swear he smiles.
Oh,
Reminding me of a story of my dad.
sorry.
The story about my dad and when he was in college, a couple of him and his buddies, they got together and they were able to grab a possum, and then they put it in like the girls' dormitory and listen to them scream and yell and kick it out.
Well, we would.
Oh God, that was hilarious.
That's what Southern kids get up to down here. You know, we don't have a whole lot, so we grab a possum once in a while for fun.
I grew up rural, and we would trap. Well, we would try to catch like fox and raccoons, but you'd catch possums, and we also did muskrats. But I caught a possum one time, and I swear to God, man, I did my thing on him. I reached down to pick, open up the trap, pick him up. And that thing turned around and hissed at me. Yeah. And I just crapped my freaking pants. So playing possum is a real thing, man.
Oh my God, possums are like mean little shits. Like they come up here and they try to get into the cat food, and I try to scare them off with a broom. They just hiss at me. They were annoyed that I interrupted their meal.
We had one.
God, but we used to sit out on the porch, and it was so, like, in the middle of the summer, sitting on the porch, and you could, spot the animals. You'd see the possums and the raccoons, and then, and bears. We'd sit out there and just wait for the bear to come out. And that was always really cool. Like, just us and the kids waiting for a bear to show up.
That's that slow revolution I'm talking about.
Oh, speaking of like peanuts, like we have plenty of squirrels, so we give them like a handful to our peanuts like a day.
I can straight shoot a squirrel right in the eye.
Oh no!
And I often do, to keep them away from birds.
I just hung up a hummingbird feeder.
Oh yeah.
Because we got some hummingbirds to go by.
You probably got Anna's hummingbird, because when I lived in Portland, that's what I got, was Anna's hummingbird. They're beautiful.
My brother, you were talking about bears. My brother lives up in oh crap, now I forget the name. He lives right at the entrance to Rocky Mountain National Park.
Nice.
And right at the entrance. So there's always elk and stuff, but they're also bear.
Yeah.
So he's got an electric fence for like animals. Mm-hmm. He's got one of those chargers, and he's got a hunk of fencing, chain link fence on the ground, and then a bunch of like he's got a piece of chain link like screwed to the top of the plastic thing, and then at night they turn that on so that if the bear comes, it gets blasted with a little shock. But hey, check this out. He says, I got to take you by this restaurant. There was like a pizza restaurant or something. And I guess a bear came down and smelled it.
Yeah.
And tore a hole through the side of the building.
Oh, yeah.
I crawled in there, man. I ain't me going in there to check out no damn bear.
Johnson. You ever see that? Redford.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Johnson chasing the grizzly bear through the cabin.
Has anybody
Yeah,
ever
we
seen
couldn't
the
have
movie?
normal garbage cans here because the animals would just get into it, and so we had like these huge like wooden boxes with like what's that called? Like the chicken wire, and you know they're pretty heavy. So, but the bears would just pick it up and throw it to get the trash that was in it. I mean, it kept the raccoons out though.
Anybody ever seen that documentary? Who was the guy, like Timmy, somebody that would go up out in the wild? I think it was Alaska and live with the bears, but they finally ate him one day. Anybody seen that?
Oh, the Grizzly Man or something like that.
Yeah.
No, I got no interest in somebody dumb enough to go up and stand around with him and think he's like got their vibe or something, man.
He did for many years.
No,
Documentary. It was crazy. It was sad though. I mean, it was really. It almost reminded me of the Chris McCandless story.
Yeah.
It went off alone in the woods and ended up dying. It was because it's almost like there's sort of a void, a really deep void that this guy just kind of didn't have anything that made him feel important or valuable, and he connected with these bears, and it filled something emotional or psychological for him, and it to his detriment. I mean, it was kind of like
he had his girlfriend with him.
Kind of pitiful, and you kind of end up feeling a little bit bad for him because, like, darn, dude. But yeah, no, of course. I mean, it's like you have to have healthy respect. I mean,
well, I mean, you know,
doing that, it's like you're not gonna go hang out with the bear. You're gonna go bother him while he's doing his thing. That's not cool.
It's like, you know, hey, go. Really, if you want to just cut the movie shorter, just go juggle Wolverines or something, you know, do something really cool, you know, like say, hey guys, watch this right before you do it. I mean, because that's the way all guys go out. You know, it's the last words are always, hey guys, watch this. Trust me, I've had things put together several times in my life for one of them. Hey guys, watch this.
My famous last words.
So, Broken Carpenter, you said you grew up really rural. Where did you grow up? It sounds like
I grew up in Shoemakersville, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
It's up north. It's north of Reading.
North of Reading. Have you ever heard of Towanda?
From fried green tomatoes?
No, I'm serious. It's called Towanda, Pennsylvania.
Oh my goodness.
Nah, I wouldn't.
Okay.
Nah.
It's about an hour and a half northwest of Scranton.
Okay.
Kind of like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that would be up north. That would be up in Coal Cracker, sort of up north of Coal Cracker country, up towards New York and stuff.
Yeah, almost like an hour to Binghamton, I believe. Something like that.
I could prove it by me, but I know the general area you're talking about.
Okay. It's a big state, so.
Hey, you want to check some out? I went to Hamburg High School, you know, like Hamburg, Germany.
Oh, okay.
Everybody there were Pennsylvania Dutch.
Oh.
And that's really just Pennsylvania Germans.
Right.
So we moved. I was born in Kent, Ohio, like where they had the riots, and I lived there then. You know, I got pulled out of school when that happened. You know, you know, it was like when everything was brewing up. I can remember my mom came and picked us up, and you know, we went home and listened to like the radio with the police band on it because we had a friend that was a dispatcher. I don't remember what was said or anything. I just remember it was a very tense moment. But then we moved to Pennsylvania. And so when we get there, my grandpa is still alive. And you got all these people right now that are talking about, well, hey, if you're in my country, speak my language, this and that. We go there, and I mean, people on the street corner speaking freaking German.
Yeah.
You know? And my grandpa, he could go and drink with these old Germans because he understood. He was hip to it because he was you know, he worked with the miners and he worked with the German miners, you know. And so it was a very bizarre thing where everything like the W's and the V's are mixed up.
Yeah.
You know, it was a cultural experience.
Yeah, some
But
of my family German was there. Like, I don't know, 4 generations back now, I guess.
But there was like when we lived there was knitting mills. There were clothes factories. There was the dye works. They made bricks. They still make bricks there, last I knew, still. But they also in Hamburg they had foundries and they built fire trucks and like gargantuan pumps and stuff, batteries. It was a very industrial area. And so I watched it over the years just fade away, after it basically was after NAFTA. That was when everything started going sideways, when they did after the WTO, things like that. That's when things started going south. And suddenly our labor is fighting on the same labor as somebody getting 16 cents an hour, and that would be somebody that was like a manager or something. And so it totally changed. It was like when we were kids, like one of my friend's sisters said, you either work in the foundries or you sew the crotches in underwear, or go in the army. That's what she said. So I mean, but people were very, you're talking about West Virginia, people were the same way. They're very connected to the place where they were born. And so the idea of just pick it up and leave it, even with millennials probably now, wouldn't know how deep it is with people younger. I really dig being around younger people, because I think they're hip to what needs to be done, and they've got the best tools in the world to do it with.
Well, yeah, imagine what could be done with all these parts of the country that are so.
What?
I don't know what we're looking at.
Okay, that's TMI, bro. TMI.
Ouch.
Yikes.
I tangled with the wrong one.
Woo. Okay. Kelley, after you finish your thought, I'd like to say a few things if I could, and then I gotta go.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, if you really stop and think and imagine like all these places in the country where we've got boarded up buildings and just what it could look like, if we put money and effort into the right things, just urban gardens and just all of it that we could do, and it's just sad, I think.
Something that I'm really about is I get really worked up over is sustainable living, and like Buckminster Fuller, the stuff that he did with the geodesic domes, and his whole idea really was that it's not efficient, and this was back in the 50s and beyond. I mean, he was way ahead of his time. And he was all about, building the round houses. The Biodome in France is his work. I mean, that's based on his work. And so, I mean, those are houses that he said, I'm not trying to necessarily replicate nature, but I'm trying to figure out how she builds things. How does she do it? And, it's all, those domes are made up of a triangle, the most stable structure. And so what happens when there's a storm? It blows right over it like a hill. It's not buffeting a flat surface. So it's very different, and it's efficient because you're not going to spend as much heating or cooling it, and you can have a lot more time to live. His whole thing was, what sense is it that we build these structures to go work in? We're not living in them. We build these places for the computers to sleep at night, but we're not sleeping there ourselves. So we spend all of our time there to pay for the thing that's over here, and we barely spend any of our time in that. How much sense does it make? Right?
If you want to see, I'm sorry. I just very quickly on self-sufficiency. A old BBC show called Good Neighbors. If you can find it, watch it. It's very funny on self-sufficiency.
Cool.
All right, so I just ate some Granny Goose potato chips. Okay, and they were delicious. But while I was buying my potato chips, I got a watermelon,
Oh,
and then I have some organic carrots and some organic bananas. So I eat like crap, but then I try to fix my guilt with something
Well,
good.
wait, what kind of chips?
Granny, they're just they're disgusting potato chips.
But is it natural stuff though? What's in it?
No,
All the junk?
it's I can't. There's
Like
words on the
salt,
there's
nothing
words in
else.
the ingredients I can't understand. But
See,
anyway,
I
but
just
it's
think
bad.
that, yeah, see, why don't you get like
It's in English, but it's fine.
I know what. Look, I know what to eat. I know what's out there. There's a place called Trader Joe's. I don't know if anybody's heard about it,
Oh, I've heard of it.
but it's really good. And I try to buy a lot of my food there. But I want to go back to just agriculture in general. And I think because I think the topic is food. My
Yeah.
grandfather, fantastic man, used to be a Freemason until it got all religious and crap, and he was a master mason. He was just a pretty smart man. So whatever you guys think about the Illuminati, he just didn't dig any of that. So he split it. He said it's just getting weird, Jim, and I just got to get the hell out of this thing. So anyway, but he had a 6-acre avocado ranch for 30 years, and I used to work like out there with the Mexicans. I mean, these guys would do 50 yards with a trench that's 12 feet deep by 6 across. It's perfect. And they'd start at 7. I'd start at 7. They'd do 50 yards. I was doing about 12 yards. These guys were just amazing. They worked their butts off. But the thing is we were told by the industry on many occasions when we were bringing up these avocados, we're raising them, growing them, is the industry would tell us, oh, you have to spray because the appearance of the fruit fly was not sellable. The appearance was bad. My grandfather, it cost us money, and he hated doing it.
I can't hear. We can't hear you
All right.
anymore.
oh.
There he is.
Hello, can you hear me over?
Yeah.
My connection is
I remember
unstable.
seeing something.
Yeah.
Oh, go
Can
ahead.
you hear me now?
Sorry.
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so what happened is he had to, because of the industry, they were telling everybody they had to spray their oranges, their avocados, their lemons. I mean, this ranch was awesome, and I used to work my butt off. But the thing is we have like Monsanto that rules over a lot of, and they're like one of the largest.
You're breaking up again.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Maybe I got things. Maybe I got too many things up. I don't know. Can you guys hear me? Okay,
Yes,
or what?
we can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay, so Monsanto is one of the largest lobbying bodies. I think Monsanto a long time.
I'll
But
raise
they're
your.
not the only company out there that's done a lot of that, right? There's tons of them. So what we're really dealing with is back to our legislators. We're back to our executives. We're back to the judiciaries, the people that are helping to keep these poisonous industries into our saddest. It's the sad part about all this. I mean, I'm eating potato chips, which is stupid and wrong, but that's my choice. Okay, but at the same time, we also have a lot of companies, a lot of farmers, a lot of groves, a lot of ranches. They're almost forced to do this at the request of what the consumer wants, right? Back in the day, but now people don't really care about. They want organic. More people are requesting organic.
Yeah.
More people are. Yeah, I think that's the general consensus now. Is Monsanto has gone out. A lot of these chemical companies have had some terrible headlines because they are. And like I said, Kauai, the deal with that was they started bringing all their chemicals in and their pesticides, and they started spraying, and it was causing some birth defects and all kinds of bad things. And they're still fighting that. They didn't fully win that fight, but they've made some great strides on it. So, like I'm saying, and as much as we talk about how bad the food is, how terrible, poisonous it is, all of our stories, like my grandmother used to skin her own chickens. I used to watch her. I used to actually help collect the chickens when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But the thing is it's our society. I think all of us basically need to make sure that we have people that understand.
You're breaking up.
Okay, sorry.
Or you're eating chips?
No, I'm not eating chips. It sounded like, no, I'm done with the chips. But anyway, I really, I mean, I can't stress this as much as we talk about how crap here it is. I think it's doing it.
Yep.
Is it breaking up?
Mm-hmm.
I think you know what I think.
Jamal.
I think Monsanto is hacking my system.
Yeah. Well.
Anyway, but you guys understand what I'm saying.
I do. I know what you're getting at.
Yeah, the basic thing is we don't have people that are high level positions publicly supporting healthy foods to keep us out of the hospitals, to keep us away. I mean,
they'll make money on healthy people.
That's it. Bottom line, sickness sickness is an economy, just like war is an economy.
There's a lot of money in death.
Or pre-death.
They really just want you sick.
Yeah.
If you're dead, then it's over.
Sick. James, you're cackling again. James, we can't. Can you fix what's going on?
No, I don't know why that's happening. Default audio device has changed. All right, I'm gonna go. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Take care. I don't know.
Bye. Have a good one.
Aloha. Thank you. Bye.
I think I'll just wait till.
Yeah, sorry. I gotta get out of here. Jesus Christ.
Good night.
Oh, maybe it wasn't James. Maybe it's.
We're giving him a hard time.
Is it the Broken Carpenter? Because his video is fuzzy.
Yeah, his screen is doing something funny.
TBC?
Yeah, I'm checking that. Oh. I should be. That doesn't look any bad to me. Oh.
Do you want to mute him, Kelley, and then we could continue until it's fixed?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Good. So I read an article a couple years ago, and I think it was that an island in Hawaii, they do almost all the pesticides and GMO testing on one of the islands.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I'm hot. My wife was asked to go out there. She worked for Monsanto's parent testing division, which the process that Monsanto grows things was that the seeds that they produce are what are called odd plodality, which means that they only can work for one generation. They're kind of like mules. So the actual parents are two different breeds of corn to make the third breed. And before she got her grad degree, she worked in the parent testing division that ensured the continuity of those lines. And then after she got out, she went into the insectary, where she studied the effects of the chemicals in the wild. And in Iowa, there's one growing season per year. But in Hawaii, you go, you have one group of fields, and in a different wind pattern, you have another set of fields that are offset by 3 months. and you go to another portion of Hawaii. So in Hawaii, what the people are required to do in 1 year in Illinois, they had to do 4 times a year in Hawaii. So they could test something in Hawaii 4 times faster than they could do it here, because they could get 4 years worth of data in 1 year.
Did you feel like that had anything to do with her getting, or did she?
Well, there's multiple possibilities, and we couldn't rule out that it was glyphosate or glyphosate exposure. The type of cancer she has is 5 known causes. 4 of them were eliminated. They were viral, and they determined that hers was not viral because it took 6 weeks to identify her cancer. CDC got involved. She was misdiagnosed a second time in the hospital as having some kind of viral brain infection. That's why the CDC was called out to, an unknown serious brain infection. And so they removed all the causes except for beta radiation exposure. And she was out in the cornfields when the plume from Fukushima went across Iowa, or across Illinois. Lived in Illinois at the time. And so she had 2 extremely viable possibilities of exposure. Currently, glyphosate is not listed as a possible cause of brain damage, but really, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
Jenny Lynn on the chat was mentioning that a minute ago.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what the cause was, and the problem is in that case there's multiple possibilities. It's really hard to lay the blame on it with as little amount of data as we have.
Do you know if anybody else that worked with her had the same issues?
Most of the cancers weren't brain, but I believe her entire department.
Oh wow.
Is that any way to do like an investigation to sue them, or?
It wouldn't be wise to go up against that amount of money with the amount that I have. Because it's no longer Monsanto, it's Bayer.
Yeah. Well,
how long ago did your wife die?
Thanksgiving of 2015.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So.
Yeah, that's my grandma passed away at that same time. Cancer too. So it's I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah. And it's cultural too, or because in Korea, at least, like a lot of cancers there are, I think, intestinal cancers because of the types of food that they eat. I think it's because there's a lot of like kimchi. There's a lot of pickled dishes.
Yeah.
And that's probably what causes a lot of the issues with intestinal cancer rather than like prostate cancer or any other cancer that we have here. Like we have a lot of prostate cancer here in U.S., right? Or in another type of cancer because of the meat.
No, it was because of the iron.
Oh, iron.
Fad of well, again, multiple causes, and it's hard to actually nail it. But since the late 80s, they've cut back the iron exposure to male children for that purpose. But whenever it comes to saying blame, that's a legal issue and can be big money. But back in the 60s, there was the belief, 50s, 60s, that the more iron you got, the better.
Yeah.
And iron was put in everything. And again, all of the ions you have in your body all need to be in a perfect balance, in near balance. And when you start flooding the body with one type of ion, that it will help you. more isn't always better.
Okay.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about because you're so there's so much that knowledge that you have that I don't, and I have a lot of questions about the chemicals around here, and I there's so many I don't even know which one to start with. Would you know anything about? I've noticed here there's something going on with our trees, the plant life. There's been
I'll be back.
the trees, the leaves turn this bright green, and then the other trees are the leaves are red and purple, like a deep color, but they're getting sick with something, or something's affecting certain trees, and it's killing them. I mean, they're just the trees are after the leaves turn colors, they just snap in half.
You might want to contact your local extension office, especially if you have one of the trees, and ask them there if they have I'm trying to think of the term, an arborist.
And
because as much as I'd love to be able to make some guesses, that is not my field, and they would be just basically guesses. But I can tell you that iron ions are green. Some iron. There are multiple different types of iron ions. Sorry, it's like sea cells by the seashore.
Yeah, there's definitely something going on, some kind of phosphorus, is nitrogen, something to do with that. I'm trying to research it, but I'm just, I'm not smart. I don't know that kind of stuff. That's always been my weak area.
Many of these people in the extension offices, the state universities ask for their extension office. Many of them would love to have questions from the populace, and many of them will talk your ear off if you ask them just a few questions, and would love to help you. And they're real experts that are familiar with your local trees. Even the location of cement, concrete near a tree, the changing of the type of grass you have can affect the ion balance in a tree, which is just as important as the ion balance in your body.
Yeah, because it's I noticed it's not a specific species or whatever. I mean, these are the trees, it's bushes, and then there's this green, almost looks like calcification or green buildup on them. It's on the rocks, it's on everything. I mean, this is over several towns, miles of land that this is affecting, and nobody seems to care that everything's dying here.
No, too bad you can't take a picture of it and show it sometime.
Yeah, I've been meaning to do that because it's kind of hard to explain, but yeah, and I know it's just the leaves turn colors. It's well, I mean, but it's spring, it shouldn't.
Yeah, you don't mean it fall.
Way. Yeah.
Are they near a sidewalk?
Well, there's some on my street, but not in my yard.
Is the color change mostly the ones that are nearest the highway or road and the sidewalks?
Yeah, I've noticed it usually in the car. I've seen in those houses there.
How far are you away from some kudzu?
From where?
Kudzu. Some kudzu plants.
I don't know what that is.
That's good. For a southerner not to know what kudzu is
right. It's all over Georgia, right?
Yeah, it's very good news. You don't want it.
You can't eat it though.
Yes, you can, but cattle can't. Cattle are afraid of kudzu. There's something. I was talking with someone about experimenting with some, and basically kudzu plant has all of the properties of hemp except for it's hated. and the kudzu plant is really good fiber for things. And we were looking at an alternate source of fiber that we might be able to get inexpensively. And it's real hard for someone to kill kudzu.
Oh yeah, once it gets going, it'll take over the town.
So it's like the least fragile plant you can deal with.
Right.
And it's
Very
really
hardy.
got a lot of benefits. And since it went wild, everybody's hated it so much that all the legitimate reasons for having it have been discontinued.
I might be wrong, but is kudzu originally a Japanese plant?
That is correct.
Yeah.
It's very close to the Japanese word for scum, which is
Wow. There you go.
But
kuzu.
But there are benefits to it if we utilize it. It's just kind of like when we have too much of what is it? It's like animals that take over. Same thing with plants.
Yeah, it's an invasive species.
Invasive species. Like in the Northwest, there's a lot of blackberries, and you can't. It's hard to get the blackberries out because you have to dig deep and get the root parts out. But everyone loves blackberries, so it's not that bad.
We have wild raspberries here. They're fantastic, and the state goes around and kills them.
Oh no.
Hey, Yvonne, I just realized, am I being a bad moderator? Because I noticed Bullshit Man has been on here this whole time, but he's muted. Maybe he muted.
Yeah, he said early on that he's just kind of listening. He's
listening.
Not gonna
Okay. I just thought, what if he's been trying to talk?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I can't even see anything on my screen, so I don't know. I'm trying to. I can't tell who's talking or anything.
Oh, that's all right. One thing that I noticed that was funny but also sad is I'll see on milk cartons their marketing is grass-fed cows. I mean, it's gotten so bad that we have to label what they naturally eat because probably most of the milk out there isn't based off of cows that eat grass.
That actually is the most dangerous milk.
What?
Grass-fed, most dangerous.
I never knew that.
And well, you are what you eat.
Yeah.
What's laying in the grass?
Well, but I mean, depends on the grass. I mean,
yeah, I haven't touched cow milk since I was around 11 or 12 years old. I stay away from it. Yeah.
Rabbit is incredible.
That's my bunny, Petey. My little bud. He's 10 years old. He's a Netherland dwarf mix, and he's very healthy.
No, what happens when a cow is eating out in the wild is there is a lot of avian bacteria that gets into their gut. And you have a lot of issues in the food chain when you have that type of mixing. In the wild, it didn't matter so much. But humans are very fragile creatures. We've separated ourselves from nature so much that we don't have the ability to handle this wide amount of bacterial threats. You'll see an animal out in the wild eating meat 3 days older, unrefrigerated, than what we could handle.
Sorry, my battery's gonna die, so I had to move. I apologize. And my husband's over there sleeping. If you can see feet, just ignore it.
My wife would have never.
Now he's moved it out.
He moved.
My wife would have never let me chat with her in the room.
I've been in the other room, but I looked down and my battery was about to die, so I had to move. It's okay. He doesn't care. He'll sleep through anything.
I have a wall behind me and a curtain, a sound-absorbing curtain, so that I can talk with my father. He's in bed.
Oh.
And then I have a hydroponics 3-level farm behind me. And then I've got my bedroom. I'm in my work area right now.
Did you say Iowa or Idaho?
Iowa.
Iowa. Okay.
Most people blend them together if they're not familiar with any of them. In fact,
I know the difference. I just didn't remember.
I've had people mix up Iowa and Hawaii.
Yeah.
Well, our
We are the-
education, like I said, I mean, Sarah Palin, we can't identify basic geography. So
I just tell them
She just
that,
has really good eyesight.
yeah, I just tell them that Iowa is beside Hawaii. We're not Hawaii. But yeah, we are close. And when I see no flecks or anything on their eyes, no blinking, I pretty much know that they don't know.
Oh my God. That's sad. It's
And
just sad.
And that's to fellow Iowans. No, I was just joking.
I've driven through middle of Iowa to get to Nebraska, Omaha especially, and what was it that I saw once? Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Well, Sioux City, probably not the path you took, used to have a copy of the Gateway Arch of St. Louis, and they called Sioux City the Gateway City because a lot of people went west from Sioux City. And so I lived in Sioux City for a year, and we called it the Gateway to Nebraska. And it was it's a long trip across Iowa. And it seems like Nebraska is twice as long.
Yeah, you get the tar sands in the western part of Nebraska, and once you get past, I think it's Illinois, and then you hit Iowa, and it just seems like a long stretch just because it's so flat and straight.
Well, there used to be this huge hog farm just off of Interstate 80, just as you cross from Illinois into Iowa. And my cousins came up to visit, and I drove up from North Carolina with them. So as soon as they came across the bridge, it was like, ooh, we smell Iowa.
Okay, Stevie, this is the food issue. What are you eating?
Corned beef hash.
Oh, okay.
Oh, when my wife had cancer, she couldn't have any potassium. And I contacted a lot of food manufacturers to find out what levels of potassium there was in them. And Pringles was extremely helpful. They put me right in touch with their food nutritionist, who will help you if you have any kind of issues with food. They'll tell you whether or not and which type of Pringles has what chemicals in it. And if you have brain cancer, regular Pringles is the best food you can eat.
Wow.
It was the only thing. It was in order for them to be able to sell it in England without a tax. They can't have any potassium in it to call it a potato. So it actually doesn't say potato anywhere on there, on the box. So they can import it into England. And in doing so, their process was almost the same as the process my wife used to take the potassium out. And we found it was so hard to find food for her to eat. And she could eat it even on chemo, eat Pringles.
Well, I think labeling is a huge issue because I learned not to look at all at like trans fats, 0 grams and all that, just to look at the ingredients. But I do remember there was a loophole specifically with the trans fats. It was like if it had 0.5 grams or less per serving, that it could say 0 grams of trans fat. So say you take a loaf of bread and it's got hydrogenated oil in it, which I avoid that one like the plague. But if it had that in it and you're trying to avoid trans fats and one slice of bread has less than half a gram, they could advertise it that way. But if you make a sandwich that has 2 pieces of bread, that adds up to a gram of trans fat. So it actually does have. So I'm like, how do we in this country have a system where the labeling is purposefully misleading? It's to stand there in the grocery store, like reading everything. That's why they say just shop the perimeter of the store.
Many of the chemicals that are on there aren't really as bad as they seem. The name sometimes confounds it. The worst one that I see on most labels is called natural flavoring, because they can Well, in the
Say
instance,
anything.
I cannot have any exposure to any grapefruit enzymes. So what natural flavoring tends to be is they take grapefruit that has a sting to it, and they use that to pair with other chemicals. But since it starts with grapefruit, they can call it natural. But if I were to have just a few colored sprinkles, actually, it's like I couldn't walk for about 6 weeks after having 7 Starbursts, the little candies.
Yeah.
And I had a strawberry Starburst, and I didn't know that they were actually grapefruit flavored. So a lot of what you think is safe is what's bad, and a lot of what you think is bad is not safe.
Yeah, it's
So-
very counterintuitive.
What are your thoughts?
Sorry.
What are your thoughts on GMO labeling?
I think it should be labeled because I don't even think that is proper. To me, the 2 different types of wheat should be labeled so that the people that can eat the Norwegian wheat but not the Japanese mutated wheat could still have bread and stuff. If they just change that one enzyme, take that one enzyme or protein out, they don't have a problem with it. One of the things comes back to races where we look at the color of people's skin or the shape of their eyes, and we think that is race. But really, the races are so mixed that, like the instance of the children were 2 twins. One of them was born black and one of them was born white. The dynamic really isn't that we're all the same. It's really that we're all different. Not just I'm black, he's white. It's white. 2 kids can be completely different because it's the micro. Really, the race is, what can I eat? what metabolism we have, and we know that there's at least 7 different dynamic shifts within the body, and you can't look at somebody and say what there was. And a really humorous one, where is this I can't think if it was a KKK or not, but he got invited onto a British TV show, and they all took DNA tests, and they found out he was 1/16 black.
That's beautiful.
I know. I know that story. Quite great.
Eric, are you taking a nap? Oh no, you.
Oh no.
But but it comes down to blood looks red, but there are multiple blood types. They're not compatible, and you can't mix them up. So you have different susceptibilities in your gut to what you can eat. Now, 50% of your DNA doesn't come from your parents. It comes from who you eat with. And there's all this bacteria in your gut. That's 50% of your DNA, is the creatures you carry along with you that help you eat. And your DNA might favor some and not favor others. And so we have all of these issues we have. And we have people that think they're being loyal to their race. They don't know what their race really is. I've got one portion of my family genealogy back over 2,000 years. There's no way I could say my family's from this country, because I know that it's an incredible blender of how these people kept changing around throughout the country. And it's such a scattering throughout Europe, and that you cannot say what actual DNA makeup one person has, unless you're talking about some Scottish island where they've only had one family to breed with for 5,000 years. Or if you go out into the Pacific Islands like Kiribati, there's where you find a almost homogenous group of DNA, where the people are so much alike that regardless of what family they're in, they're basically almost like brothers and sisters anyway. And I think that maybe if we start taking this other view, that I'm not really part of this group. We're a distribution. we're not this. Does that seem strange?
No.
Well, like that reminded me of this story. Oh, yeah. Hold on a second.
Older kiddos.
That I think I'm 14% Neanderthal.
My mom's side of our family has always been super into genealogy, and that's how we found out we were related to Thomas Jefferson directly through his brother. So that takes us right back to Scotland. And we recently found out we have a lot more Irish and French than we thought. And also American Indian side of things. We even had a little bit from Morocco. It was crazy how much.
Way back, they kept records for some people way back, like I said, over 2,000 years ago. I think about 2,300 to be exact. And the earliest record we have was the person died for better, or sacrificed for better crops.
Hey, everyone. I think I have to sign off.
Oh,
I think when my battery goes down, that's
Okay,
also my spinal fluid. About time that I need to sign off, so I don't have a
timer's going off.
Yeah, I can feel it. So
this might be a good time to end it, and we can always have one tomorrow after Freedom Friday.
Freedom Friday.
Yeah, Eric, aren't you doing Fridays?
Yup.
Okay, cool.
I may or may not be on as late because I'm planning to take a little vacation trip with my honey bunny, my human honey bunny.
That's good.
For the weekend, so I don't.
Well, I think we stayed on topic mostly.
We did.
Yeah, but it's great. Everybody
with myriad. I mean, you could talk about this issue for a long time because there's so much to it.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is just for the fans, and pretty much anything goes. I think if we want to do something more like very specifically oriented,
right,
maybe we just pick a few people and we stick to one topic, and then that would be it. And then, but like after hours is like Tim Black's Collins, right? You talk on Freedom Friday, you just talk about anything.
Right.
But
we're triggered.
Oh yeah,
I just wanted to do that.
Do that.
Because then we could
I
get
didn't do enough of it today, but I wanted to do it before everything ended.
Yeah, because then we could get more people who are like really interested in a specific topic that they would
triggered.
Be around. Plus, it won't be late.
After Chunk has knocked a few back, he's triggered.
Well, yeah, Evan, it would be great, like if Tim was able to get, I think we talked about this, if he was able to get someone that's doing urban farming, like get a panel like that where we've got real experts. Because we have, I mean, I'm not an expert in it. I know a lot of nutrition stuff, but I'm not an expert farmer, gardener. So that would be really great if you had that kind of a panel. But that's what you're kind of thinking of doing.
Yeah, I think that'd be.
That's what I was thinking earlier. It's like I wish I need a brain to consult with. Like there's not enough information in mine. I need somebody else that has that. It'd be nice to have people like that on.
Yeah, and it's always. Whoa.
Oh.
Okay.
Nice green something there. Oh,
tomatoes.
Tomato or a pepper. Or
oh.
The peppers.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Looks like it. Yeah.
That's great.
And I would never, just a last note, I guess, is never underestimate the power of your own research. I mean, I found out so much about cancer and way even more than I was able to talk about tonight. Just all about different treatments, different things that have been created over time, and how the industry has just really repressed any sort of natural remedies or therapies. It's really intense, and you can find out so much. I mean, that's really what me and my mom do. Whenever we have a health issue or question, we get online and we start studying about it and asking questions and really getting deep into it. And that's the bulk of how I know how to take what supplements I take and what's good and what's not good. And it takes some work, but it's worth it. It really is.
Yeah.
We're trying to get a garden going, just tomatoes and herbs. I'm like, my mother's good at it. I'm really not. So But this is inspiring. Good pictures.
Yeah, I would like to do my own one day.
It tastes so much better when it's like right out of the garden.
Yeah, when it's ripe.
It's like candy. My daughter loves it. Like tomatoes right out of the garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me,
Okay.
I want to have like a humongous garden one day.
Well, you're in the right place. Well, it might be too hot sometimes where you are, right?
But Florida, yeah.
Florida.
I wish I had like we live in like in a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a garage.
But you don't need that much space just for herbs and tomatoes. You can do that with a very little space.
Yeah,
Even
but
little flower boxes.
But I would like to do a lot more though. Like, strawberries, fruits, vegetables, everything pretty much.
Yeah.
All right. We should end it. It's
Good night,
going on
everybody.
3.5 hours.
All right. Thanks for everything, everyone. Everyone have
Okay.
a wonderful evening.
All
Bye,
right.
everybody.
Good
Bye.
Everybody.
Good
Love
night.
everybody. Have a good one.
Take care, y'all.